Hello everyone, Thomas here. Apologies if I sound a bit odd, I'm recovering from a bit of a cold currently. This is the monthly bonus podcast for the feed while we're in our transitional era. I'm putting out monthly bonus podcasts, usually from the Patreon feed, as is this one. This Toy Story full franchise, where we're talking about all four of the major films in the Toy Story franchise. Brian and I. This was from September 2023. So it's a bit off in that we hadn't even seen the teaser trailer for Toy Story 5, which recently came out. I have my thoughts about that. I hope it's good because that concept of dealing with toys versus iPads feels very like old man yells at cloud to me. So I'm curious to see how they kind of wrestle with that. But anyway, before we get to the actual bonus episodes, just a couple bits of house cleaning. One over on Patreon. We would have recently put out both a Marco Polo episode where Tori, friend of the show, and I talk about different Adult Swim media. November episode will be up shortly, and our big audio review double package came out, which involves a friend of the show, Lily Labens, talking with me about the Guillermo del Toro Frankenstein. And the second half of it is me and also a friend of the show, Joey Hamilton, talking about Edgar Wright's The Running Man. So if you become a patron over at patreon.com/cinema number two letter, you get to listen to that stuff. You'll be able to listen to the stuff we do in December, which includes another Marco Polo. That one will be a bit interesting. It'll be kind of like a commentary thing with Tori and I. And then also the audio reviews that we're planning on putting out. There's going to definitely be one for Avatar: The Way of Water that comes out in December. That's what you all voted on, and that's when I ended up winning the poll. So we'll definitely be covering that as its own audio podcast. And then second place went to Marty Supreme, the new movie with Timothée Chalamet, which I really want to cover. So we're going to have that as a separate audio review that might come out before the end of the year since it comes out on Christmas. More likely it'll come out like at the early part of January. Not exactly sure when, but point is there'll be something there for Marty Supreme. In January, we're going to have another audio review thing, of course. So we're going to have the Cineasts who vote. Once again, patreon.com/cinema number two letter. All you Cineasts will get to vote on what we do for the January audio review. And that includes the following movies. Primate, which is a very silly January horror movie that's coming out. 28 Years Later, Bone Temple. Return to Silent Hill, and The Testament of Anne Lee. Those are the four titles that you'll all get to vote on, and whichever one gets top spot will definitely get the audio review, and I might review the secondary one, depends. Especially as we get into January and February, there might be slim pickings, so I might just do only one audio review for those. But yeah, that poll will go out on December 1st, and we'll find out which movies we'll be covering in January shortly thereafter. But I also want to say with this full franchise one that we're doing here, I'll tease that next month on the main feed, the bonus podcast is not going to be something that I dig out from the Patreon archive. It'll be a brand new piece of audio recorded. It'll be another full franchise, which is why I want to introduce you all to the concept here on the main feed, which we've done many on Patreon. We've done it for like Final Destination, Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, so many franchises. I'll be doing it with a couple other guests for the Dollars trilogy / Man with No Name trilogy. Basically, a fistful of dollars for a few dollars more, and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. We'll be covering those three films, myself and two other guests, so I won't reveal it yet because we haven't quite recorded that episode. So I'm not sure if everything's 100% lined up, but I have some people at least currently ready to jump in for that. So yeah, that'll be coming out at some point in December, hopefully before the 18th. One, for holiday reasons, and two, because that is the, I believe, 60th anniversary of the second For a Few Dollars More film in that trilogy. Yeah, look forward to that next month, and all the stuff over on the Patreon. Once again, patreon.com/cinema number two letter, where you can get all that stuff for just $1 a month, which is a real bargain considering how much bonus stuff is back there for you to listen to. So without further ado, in honor of this franchise recently celebrating its 30th anniversary, just a couple days before this is posted on the main feed, here is the full franchise episode for the Toy Story franchise. Hello, Cineas. Now, you just remember what your old pal said, because you've got a full franchise on Toy Story.
Sergeant?
Yes, sir.
Establish a recon post downstairs.
Code Red, repeat. We are at Code Red. Recon Plan Charlie, execute. It's a big one.
Walt Disney Pictures presents a totally new animated motion picture event.
Star Command, come in. Do you read me?
The story of two toys.
There seems to be no sign of intelligent life anywhere.
Hello?
Headed for a showdown.
My name is Woody. This is my spot.
I am Buzz Lightyear. I come in peace.
You are a child's plaything!
You are a sad, strange little man.
And playing by their own rules.
Buzz, look, an alien!
Where? You're mocking me, aren't you?
This holiday season, the adventure takes off when toys come to life.
To infinity and beyond!
Toy Story.
Look out!
Can.
I am Thomas, and I'm not here to do a Randy Newman impression. I'm sorry, I know you all wanted it. I can't achieve that greatness here on mic myself.
I was this close to attempting it, but I'm tired today, so...
Yeah, we're recording this late, everybody. This is a late night. This is, you send you start getting a Simba to the Letter nights.
Yeah, late at night.
Yes. And we are here to talk about, as chosen by the patrons. Thank you all, of course, as per usual, for your money and everything. It helps us out. We're going to be talking about the full franchise of Toy Story. Now, what that means is we will spend a fair amount of time on each Toy Story film that has the name Toy Story in it.
Yes.
That's the preface that we put on this. We will reference some of the other materials. I literally have a timeline of sorts in the notes. So we'll briefly touch on some of these things in between films. Yeah, so before we get into any of that, though, what's your toy origin story, Brian? What is your... I'm assuming you saw this film as a child?
Yeah, I think these were probably some of the first movies I saw, now that I think about it, because I think the first Pixar movie I would have seen was probably Finding Nemo. I remember seeing that really early on.
Right. Yeah.
And then of course I grew up on other Disney stuff, but yeah, for as long as I can remember, I've been watching the Toy Story movies, and I just know them so well, at least the first two. Yeah. And they're very near and dear to me personally. I love them ever since I have grown up. I continue to watch them, and yeah, I love them. I'm very curious for you though. What was your first Pixar movie, or where did these fit into when
This is where you're trapping me in an age corner.
Yeah.
By default, it would have to be the first Toy Story, you son of a bitch.
Right.
Because this movie came out when I was 2. I didn't see it in the theater. I know that much. I remember I did see it later in the theater for there was a point when I was in summer camp, so my mother was working, or my dad was working as well. And just I don't know, take them over to the school park, which was our after school program. Sometimes they would take us to the movies. I remember it was probably at some point before Toy Story 2 came out. I did watch Toy Story in a theater. It wasn't the first time. I definitely had a clamshell VHS of this movie. And Toy Story is similarly, given how early that was ingrained in me, just by cultural osmosis in general, these movies meant a lot to me. For the first two, like you mentioned. And even Pixar, I would say all the way through, pretty much Toy Story 3. That they were just sort of things that I kept going back to even as I was getting out of, that sort of phase where I loved animated films all the time, because they were so universal. This really created that brand. And I remember to the degree that when I was a little kid, I was the ring bearer at one of a friend of my parents' wedding, and I had a Woody and Buzz. I took everywhere, including there. Coolest kid. And when I was supposed to, you gotta go down the aisle and give them the rings, and you gotta keep Woody and Buzz back here, and you'll get back to them after the wedding. And I was just like, "The fuck are you talking about? I'm not leaving a man behind. I don't leave a toy behind."
No toy left behind.
No toilet. Yes. And I walked down that aisle with Woody and Buzz in my hands. Apparently, there's footage of this. I have not seen it, but I am told this is true, and it makes sense just because like I really fucking love Toy Story. I remember seeing Toy Story 2 very clearly in the theater in '99. That was prime, sort of like that and A Bug's Life were just like very early experiences I remember in the theater. Yeah, you know, Pixar was such a brand that I held dear, and for several reasons that's maybe dissipated. And I would say the last Cars 2's 2011, right? That's like the moment.
Yeah, it is.
Because Cars had come out, and this is just a general Pixar thing. I don't think Cars is terrible. I don't think it's good. But I think of that, it's definitely the weakest of like that sort of pre-Disney buying them run, which ends with Cars. Pretty much.
Yeah, that's pretty fair. Although I don't love A Bug's Life, and that's not one of the...
Yeah.
Weirdly enough, that was like the one growing up where like it would be on in like classrooms and stuff like that, but like I never paid attention to it. I think just because I hate bugs, like in general, but yeah, that was never one I paid attention to, but I would agree with you about Cars.
I will tell you straight up, a big thing in sort of my cineast history, I remember very clearly when A Bug's Life came out, because I'm like, hey, I just saw Ants in the theater like 2 months ago. And now this is coming out. That's weird. Why are there two Bug movies? Then I would later find about Jeffrey Katzenberg, who figures into this story, at least the first film story, which you might as well get into. So let's start off here with the original Toy Story, coming out November 22nd, 1995, from director... We should just address this now, I think.
Look.
John Lasseter is the director of this film and the second film, and is involved with the third film, kind of asterisk involved. He's legally credited on the fourth film. So yeah, that was another thing, honestly, for me. With Toy Story was like, and Pixar in general was kind of an early example for me as well of learning about like how animation is done from a newer perspective. I'd seen like the old sort of like at the end of VHS is the Walt Disney, like here's how we drew Peter Pan.
Yep.
We had a reference model and shit like that. But this was the one where it's like, oh, okay, they're dealing with like higher end technology. Steve Jobs is an executive producer on this movie, which is another thing.
Still weird to see every time I watch this movie.
So this would be happening in between which sections of Danny Boyle's film? The second and third, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where's that part of this? Where's Michael Fassbender going down the halls of Pixar and just saying like, God damn it, look at this shark with a fucking Woody hat on. It's smiling at you. It's saying hello. But anyway, yeah. So back to the fun thing, John Lasseter. We should just say, like, obviously, a lot of things happen in between Toy Story 3 and 4, particularly closer to the end of production, or the beginning of production on Toy Story 4. And, yeah, he was a guy where because I was aware of all that behind-the-scenes stuff, I remember his face very clearly, and him wearing the fucking, Hawaiian shirts, and being like, I have toys in my office, and all this other stuff, which, when I was a child, seemed kind of like, oh, this is like, kind of a weird guy, but he, makes these movies, and he does a great job with it. And then you find out how sort of weird in a bad way he is. It's like, oh, nah, I'm good. Fuck you. Please, Andrew Stanton and Pete Docter, don't be fucking weirdos.
God, I remember seeing that video of him, like, inviting Miyazaki to the Pixar offices, and it was, like, a whole big thing, and they met him in, like, the lobby and everything, and, fuck John Lasseter.
Yeah, safe to say. Even though he was a part of making this movie, and the next movie, and the third movie, he's there. But, I mean, that behind-the-scenes stuff also taught me a lot about just how many different people are involved in Pixar movies. Like I mentioned, Andrew Stanton, Pete Docter, animating this movie. A person who doesn't get credited a lot because, sadly, he is no longer with us is Joe Ranft, who is one of the story guys on this movie, was a big story guy at Pixar, and he, like, had worked in animation for years. Like, he animated on The Lion King, but also, like, he did storyboarding, in particular for, like, Nightmare Before Christmas and shit like that. Very hailed name in the animation world. And I think if you check that, because his last credit is co-directing Cars, which, unfortunately, that was his only directorial credit. But he was a very big... Did you know much about Ranft as a figure, or any of the other Pixar people?
He's one of the ones that like, as you kind of get into Pixar, you hear a lot of the similar names of like Andrew Stanton, Lee Unkrich, of course, as well, and like, yeah, he was someone I kind of knew of just in that Pixar camp, which like around this time like is, there's a lot of very talented people working at Pixar, and like a lot of these people are going to, of course, kind of rise up. And is Pete Docter working? He's not working this early on at Pixar, right?
No, he is. He is.
Okay, cool.
I saw a lot of behind the scenes stuff in prep for this. He was one of like the earlier story guys. Because the thing is, these guys all met at Cal Arts. They were in kind of the same class as like a Tim Burton or Brad Bird, obviously. And
the A113, if I remember correctly, right? That's the classroom.
The classroom.
Yeah.
Right. The big classroom. Yes. At Cal Arts. And they had obviously started in animation. One of the early productions that involved some of these guys was Brave Little Toaster. I don't know if you're aware of that movie.
I'm aware of it. I don't know if we've talked about it or if I've talked about it with someone else, but I'm aware of that movie.
Yeah, that's another movie I saw as a kid, but more in like the traumatizing camp.
Right, that's what I've heard.
Fucked up shit. But it's interesting. It's an interesting film. But anyway, so Toy Story obviously is done through Pixar, and the start of Pixar is obviously tied to the first Toy Story, where like it started out obviously as a sort of computer, software kind of thing with Mr. George Lucas,
my buddy,
and he sold that to Steve Jobs. And Steve Jobs was only really involved as much in the production of Toy Story because he was like CEO when he owned, Pixar all the way until Disney. The first thing Bob Iger did before, he went on his eventual run was buy Pixar. And it's just it's an interesting start to this, and they did some commercials and other small things before they decided, what, we're gonna do it. We're gonna do the first animated film done by computers in the CG format. And we can't overestimate, like, regardless, of what the Pixar machine becomes after a certain point, a phenomenal achievement.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, even watching this first Toy Story today, like, it is, like, it is, of course, a lot of these early Pixar movies are starting to show their age a bit. Mm-hmm. I still think this thing looks incredible. It's, like, it's incredible how they did this. It really, like, I think still looks just really, like, interesting in a way that I think, it's such a fascinating movie.
Well, and just because of the nature of like how that movie was made and when it was made, you can tell, like, this is the thing I think especially with Toy Stories 1 and 2, where it's like a fresh thing for them. They still got their sea legs. These two movies had very infamous sort of production problems. If you ever read up about them, we'll talk about them I think a bit later. But the big thing just to realize is that, like, these people are under such duress, and it comes out in the movie, but in very charming, cartoonish ways. This is one of, like, the early Pixars are the ones that feel cartoonish. I would say that lasts up until about maybe Finding Nemo's still a bit cartoonish. And so these are all cartoons, I get it. But when what is like that line where they start feeling like, no, we're gonna have the Pixar house style? Because that kind of has become a complaint. Where do you think that starts officially?
I think there's a bit of that in Cars.
Yeah.
But I think also, like, around that time, you're getting, like, Ratatouille, which is a Brad Bird movie, and feels very, unique to him. And you're getting WALL-E and Up, which is a movie we have varying opinions on.
We will talk about that film at some point.
Yes.
I think that has to happen. It's not today.
No, but
it will happen at some point.
Man.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah. So, and that's the last one that's in their original contract. So that was the whole thing. Is that after Toy Story, I think, or no, after Toy Story, they had a contract. Where it's like, hey, you get to make you have to make 5 movies, not counting Toy Story 2. Asterisk. That's not included.
Yeah.
And also not and they were like, okay, only if you do like Toy Story 3. You have to do Toy Story 3 after a certain point. And we'll get into all of that, but yeah. So the original Toy Story, coming out when it did, November 22nd, 1995. It's weird how this movie is very much specifically like a mid-90s movie in aesthetic, but is kind of timeless just as a story, which I think is like a rare combination to have. Not just technologically, but also just with like the way Sid is like in a fucking like skull shirt, and he has like all these posters and it's blacklit, and also there's a very 90s, but even like the kind of kid Andy is such like a 90s, like if he had flop hair he'd be Jonathan Taylor Thomas kind of bullshit. It's so there.
And just like the Pizza Planet is the most 90s place ever.
A shame we never got a decent version of it. There was a version at one point over at the Hollywood Studios, and I can't tell you how disappointed I was as a child, being like, Pizza Planet, and it looked like shit. It was so bad.
It doesn't seem that difficult. I mean, like...
You'd think so. For especially Disney.
Yeah.
Just do like a lame fucking like a version of Chuck E. Cheese or whatever that still is like fun aesthetically.
Lasers and like neon and like, shit like that.
Laser tag, whatever. That would have been the perfect time.
Yeah, whatever people were into in the 90s.
Yeah, Let's start off with our favorite duo. Let's break open the ice about Woody, as voiced by Tom Hanks, and Buzz Lightyear, as voiced by Tim Allen. People of equal talent and heart in these movies.
Both loved by America equally.
Yep, for exact reasons. It's true because I think at least with like the Tom Hanks of it all, like the big thing about Tom Hanks for me is because of how ingrained this movie was in me at a very young age. Anytime I see Tom Hanks in a film, the first lizard brain response I hear from like when he uses his voice for the first time in the movie is just, oh, it's Woody. It's Sheriff Woody. He's here to save the day. And yeah, I think he's a guy who could be like, I think the only person to make Woody work, because an infamous thing about the production of this movie is that like Woody was an asshole in a certain version of this movie that Jeffrey Katzenberg overnoted. It's crazy, but like in that version, literally, I saw a bit of the storyboard that's on the Blu-ray. Buzz comes up to Woody and it's just like, hey, let's shake hands. We'll see who becomes Andy's favorite toy, because this was a different version of the movie at the time. And Woody just like takes his hand and throws him out the window. And then all the toys come over and are just like, you just did that. It's like, what? I didn't do that. And then he like gets onto the bed and everyone's just like, hey, you need to get off the bed. You just threw fucking Buzz out the window. And Woody's just like, oh, shut the fuck up. He didn't curse in this as much, but he did the G-rated version, just like, right. Just like, oh, come on. What are you talking about? Like, I'm Andy's favorite toy. I'm the only one that leads people. And particularly, what disappointed me so much, he yells at Slink. Slink tries to break it up.
He's a good dog.
Right, he's such a good dog, such a good guy. So, like, Woody just yells at him, just like, oh, come on, you wouldn't be anything without me. Slink is like, I think we should, and like, who asked you to think? I'm like, man, yeah, this guy's a dick. Like, imagine watching a storyboard movie where that's, like, your fucking hero. That'd be so annoying, and Tom Hanks is the only person that can pull off the kinder, but still kind of an asshole version of Woody that we do get.
Yeah, that is the reason this movie works so well, is that because Woody is kind of an asshole, but he is incredibly likable and is so fun and is like, he has more character than what you've just described, which is just like, he's just mean to everyone for no reason,
right.
Really. He's just,
right.
Pissed off all the time.
Well, no, a reason, because he's like, I'm hot shit, I'm the main toy. Like, oh, what a cool dude.
Right, yeah. But I think the reason this movie works so well is because, like, it makes Woody seem like he is definitely in the wrong, because, like, he does just try to murder him by car. But, like, one, it makes you understand why he would feel like that, but also I think that very fine line where it's like, like, me watching this now, I'm like, oh, Woody is very much in the wrong here and is kind of being a bad person. Yeah. But also, it's Tom Hanks, and he's just so lovable. You can't not love him.
You can't not, no.
Yeah.
I'm assuming this is also your imprint of Tom Hanks, right?
Yeah, I had a similar thing to you where, like, yeah, anytime I heard or saw Tom Hanks, I was like, that's Woody. And I've basically had that for my whole life until, like, I think recently, as I've gone back and watched more Tom Hanks movies, I can kind of now see him as more things. But like Geppetto, of course, and Colonel Tom Parker, right. Our favorite characters.
The various characters in a Cloud Atlas as well, all of them, especially the worst ones. Let's switch over to Alan as Buzz. Obviously, Tim Allen is a guy who has had a very interesting career, including prior to this movie when he was a stand-up, and he got arrested for cocaine smuggling.
Yep.
And there's a fucking 78 era mugshot. And now he's just like, hey, I'm America's favorite dad. Have you ever watched Home Improvement? Because that would have been like, what was your relationship with Alan outside of Toy Story?
You know what? I actually did watch Home Improvement because
Gotcha.
it would come on Nick at Night.
Yeah.
I think it would come on usually after like the George Lopez, which is what I actually cared about.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that origin bit.
Oh man. Oh man. But yeah, but Home Improvement would come on and I would watch it just because I didn't want to go to bed and I was like, well, this is the only thing that's on. And I didn't like it really. And I mean I also grew up with like Tim Allen as like, you know, in the Santa Claus movies.
Right.
But
as did I, yes.
Other than that, I don't really have any other, you know, frame of reference for him. Really, I know about his past, but I haven't really seen much of him. I really just know him as Buzz.
Yeah, I know a bit more because another thing, the other good thing. Well, there's a couple of good. There's a bit more than that, but the other thing that he's really great in is Galaxy Quest, which I remember seeing in a theater, despite not being a Star Trek person at all. And I was also like, that came out the same winter as fucking Toy Story 2, which is interesting.
Right.
But, you know, I got him as just sort of like, he is a pop culture figure I am aware of because I would see probably snippets. I agree. I think that was kind of like the ABC version of I'm watching some other show and the rerun is just like right before whatever show I was watching. It's exactly that. And at the same time, though, he works so wonderfully as Buzz Lightyear.
Absolutely.
It is a phenomenal vocal performance. I think just because it's such an interesting character to play where, you know, this animated movie and he's playing a space ranger sort of sci-fi trope and you can tell Tim Allen might like Star Trek because that's how he got Galaxy Quest. He's a big like Shatner nerd and shit. Makes a lot of sense. He works wonderfully, particularly just like the first bits of Buzz and Andy's room where like the spaceship lands on the bed in Woody's place. And he's just examining the terrain, just like Star Command and everything. It was so, especially for me, like at a very young age, just like getting the bit. It was just like, oh, this is like a great setup. If this guy thinks he's like a space ranger, it's perfect. And yeah, it works for any age, and it's so funny. It's truly like what's your favorite Buzz line in this movie? Because he has so many of the funny bits.
Oh my god, there's so many. I really can't remember one. Hold on. You go first. I have to look at
mine is during the bit where, you know, they look outside at Sid's house when we're introduced to Sid, the next door neighbor, and it's like, oh no, he's got a combat Carl. And it's like, that's Sid, the evil one. And fucking Buzz just says, what, that happy child? So funny. So fucking funny. And then and that's a very dark scene. I would say this is a very dark sort of character for this movie where we've set up the reality of toys are alive. And this is a G-rated film. And it's like, hey, this kid wants to blow up beings that you're growing to love. And yeah, it's just it's a wonderful example of just that logic, which I guess we should also address this. This movie was nominated for a Best Original Screenplay. First credited writer is Joss Whedon.
Oh man.
Apparently did have a major effect on, like, apparently he was the one that suggested sort of Buzz's gimmick. He basically created the character of Rex, who I would say is my favorite of the side toys. I just think he's so, like, Wallace Shawn's performance, and just the whole, he's a big Tyrannosaurus Rex, he's like, I just can't take that kind of rejection, is such a funny character. And yeah, Joss Whedon was a big part of that, and he's another guy where it's like, wow, you did great work, but also fuck you, dude.
Yep.
Fuck off.
Yep. I was trying to think of who was my favorite of the other toys. Yes. And I do love Rex, mainly because I think that was the first time I was ever graced with Wallace Shawn's beautiful voice.
Oh, wonderful. Yes, definitely.
And I love him so much. And I think, yeah, Rex is so great, but I do kind of love Mr. Potato Head. I think he's just
fuck yeah, you
so
do.
funny.
I love him too.
He's so great.
So I will say, pet peeve though about Potato Head while we're on him, I think he's great, and it's a wonderful Rickles performance. Definitely the first time I was aware of that man. His funny sort of persona. But the big thing about Potato Head was like, I never got a Mr. Potato Head that had that specific kind of like breaking of the parts with like 2 eyes or like 2 feet. That never happened. I only got like the one where it's like everything smushed together, like the 2 feet and the 2 eyes and one hole there for them.
I remember in school there was one, but like some of the pieces were missing. So like he didn't have like an ear and like an eye maybe.
Well, he was outside using them on a tortilla, so he could escape.
God, that's a weird part.
While we're talking about these various like supporting players, I mean, I think Ham, as voiced by John Ratzenberg, is amazing. Just the wry delivery on something, just like like the knowledge he has about certain things. Like, just like no, the dimensions of that box and shit like that when like the presents are coming and all that other stuff. Wonderful. Bo Peep, as voiced by Annie Potts, wonderful vocal performance that pays off a lot more by the time you get to 4. And then Slinky Dog, as I mentioned, Jim Varney, R.I.P. in the first 2 films. Ernest P. Worrell himself, which is like another thing. You have no history about Ernest, right? You only know Jim Varney for like this, right?
Probably. Let's take a quick look. Yep.
He isn't one of the guys in Atlantis. That's his very last movie. I know you've seen that.
Yes, I've seen it. Yes, I've seen that movie, but...
And shockingly, he's the one who talks like a really old Southern guy. Who seems like he's on his last legs. But anyway. Wonderful performer, though. I have a deep affection for maybe not the Ernest movies, but the character, which we may talk about at some point. I don't know. Another Disney property of the 90s for a bit. But anyway, it's such an amazing, like, sprawling cast. We even got, like, Arlie Ermey, who we haven't mentioned, or somebody as the Green Army Man. That whole sequence at the beginning is so amazing. We gotta move. No man gets left behind. And then
probably my favorite sequence in the whole movie.
It's very wonderful. It's very funny, and it looks great. It also just takes advantage of, like, the limited sort of articulation of these particular creatures and the plasticness. Makes them work so wonderfully for this era of the animation. It's so funny, particularly the physics of, like, the board that's in between their feet.
Yeah.
It's so good. Just like,
I know that stuff has gotten a lot better as we've gotten into, like, a lot more recent animation, especially, like, the newer, like, Lego movies handle that stuff a lot better. But I just remember seeing that as a kid in, like, that opening segment and the way that the toy soldiers moved like actual toy soldiers. Yeah. I just thought was so clever, and it was the first time I had ever like seen anything like that. It was so impressive.
The other thing too, also obviously about this movie, as much as like it's a very funny movie, and as a kid you're just like, oh, toys as a movie, this is great. I love toys already. This is what they do when I'm gone. At the same time, you also just have like the clockwork structure of it. It is an impeccably structured film.
Yeah.
And it all happens in 81 minutes with credits.
With credits, yep.
Because that's all they could afford to make at the time. And yeah, I think it works so well, particularly just how natural character moments happen during story beats. Like, I think the sequence, at least that I quoted the most as a kid, was the whole argument they have at the gas station. I think it's like so perfect. Like, you are a toy!
You are a sad, strange little man.
Yeah, my pity. So good. And it's like so impeccably written as a back and forth, but also you just get like, okay, these guys aren't friends. But under the impression that they were friends previously. It's like, no, we understand the score here. But then, it leads to them to Pizza Planet and the bit where they are disguised as like a burger thing and a drink.
I love the way when they talk to each other and like he's got the hamburger, like, okay. Like, it moves like a mouth.
Makes no sense why you would do that, but
no, but it is such a like
it's so funny.
Yeah, it's such a funny little piece of animation that like it works.
There's a lot of that, particularly like I think Woody's expressions in this movie. Are so wild. Just like particularly the horny face everyone made fun of when they made the action figure of it for Japan. But it's so funny, like the way his mouth stretches, it feels like you're kind of animating with like the Super Mario 64 kind of like basic tech to get it to work, but it's charming.
It is, yeah. Going back a bit, but the opening segment, which I love, of like the sort of establishing these characters, we've got, which we'll talk about, Randy Newman's music over it, and just the way that it does, like you said, at 81 minutes, it introduces all of these characters, and with one or two lines, it kind of explains exactly who this character is. Like Rex is introduced, and you're like, I get exactly what this character is, just 100%. And it is so perfectly paced, and it's so just at a breakneck pace where you're just like, oh, we're here already. We're already at Pizza Planet, and it moves so fast.
Yeah, and I think a big part of that also is just the fact, like I brought up the whole like early version of this movie or whatever. That was screened after like several months of like pre-production, where they were storyboarding, they were about to animate, and they showed pretty much the first half of the movie to the big Disney brass, including Jeffrey Katzenberg, who, like I mentioned, had been just noting the hell out of like Lasseter based on like stuff they had screened to him earlier. Just like, it needs to be edgier, it needs to be more like in your face, Shrek-ish maybe.
Oh, man.
I don't know if that term makes any sense to you now, but oh baby, your kids are gonna love it. Shout out to Losing Series, Back to the Future, for this full franchise. But anyway, they screened that particular thing, and Jeffrey Katzenberg immediately was just like, why is it so bad? And I believe it was Thomas Schulman, who was like one of the big Disney animation guys, just like, because they're not making the movie they wanted to make. They followed all of your notes and made that movie.
Yep.
And so, naturally, Katzenberg's response to that is just like, okay, guess what? We're going to lay off a bunch of the animators, and we're going to have you move from, because it was like Northern California was Pixar, I believe, the office at the time. And then he's just like, you're going to move to LA now, right before Christmas, and lay off a bunch of people who are going to animate this movie and restructure it. So then the main brass of like Lasseter and Stanton and Pete Docter and Joe Ranft were just like, give us 2 weeks and we'll have the movie completely redone in this like storyboard format. And that's how you get this movie that feels like manic and wild and crazy. I think that's a great thing, considering this is my least favorite Toy Story related take to any degree that I've heard on the internet, and I think it's fucking dumb. Is people are just like, you should reanimate it. Fuck you.
No.
That's so dumb. Just because it looks primitive. Just because, Andy and his mom and the dog and Sid.
The human characters, they look very weird.
They look weird. But
yeah.
That's not enough to like fucking like, oh, let's fucking do like, I don't know, Last of Us redone, but for Toy Story. That's a dumb idea and I hate it.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. I mean, like, there is a charm to it, I think, much in the same way that there's a charm to like I use the comparison just because it's animation, but like an old video game. Like, there's, with video games you can remake them. There's kind of a different thing, but like there's a charm to how kind of, like you said, primitive and like scrappy it kind of feels at times, where it doesn't look exactly perfect a lot of the time, especially like not just the humans, but like a lot of the just kind of weirder elements that like, feel a bit, have a human touch to them, I guess, in a way.
It feels to me on par with somebody being, hey, just reanimate Snow White. Like, fuck no. This is animation history.
Yeah.
This should be preserved. Because you mentioned video games. The problem is just like, video games preservation is terrible.
Exactly. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
As opposed to film preservation. And I would not trade this movie and some of its wonkier animated bits for anything. Even, Toy Story 2 has a bit of that. There's an improvement to Toy Story 2. But there's also like a few points where it's like, oh, because we'll get to it. That movie and its fucking production as well.
Yeah.
But no matter how like primitive the animation is, stuff like the climax of this movie is so perfectly plotted. Like everything, pretty much in the movie, but everything from like Woody doing the terrible horror thing to Sid, scarring him for life, just like, we can see everything. Which might have been my introduction to horror, basically, as a concept, because that seemed, that is really scary. I went on like, I don't know, 3 watching this for the first time.
Yeah, probably for me was like his room and all like all the toys he has, which like
Sid in general is that kind of thing.
Yeah, it was really funny though. I like, as a kid, I always remembered kind of zoning out of the movie whenever we got to Sid's house. Like I loved everything up to like the Pizza Planet, but everything after that I kind of felt was a bit, I don't know, I just kind of like lost interest. And watching it now, the movie moves like so fast, and I think, the sort of Buzz like his character arc in Sid's house is so fascinating to me now as I'm watching these, like as I'm older. Yeah, but I love that part now. I don't know. It moves so quickly that it's just done by the time you even like, blink. It's just so fast.
It's such a tonal whiplash as a thing.
Yeah.
Just like that happens. I think a big credit also is just to like people obviously, we referenced him earlier. Mr. Randy Newman did the music for this movie, not just the songs but the score.
Yep.
I think that's the big thing is like prior to this he had done a lot of like great scores, like particularly The Natural is one of my favorite scores in a movie. I mean, you haven't seen The Natural, right?
I have not, no.
No. It's an amazing, like one of the most iconic, especially sports related scores that's ever happened. It's a reference a lot on The Simpsons, which is how I mainly first heard it. Like, do you remember the one where Bart has a go-kart race and Homer's just like in the stand? He's like, "You can do it for your old man, boy." The music that's there is a parody of The Natural.
Okay.
It's so funny.
Is that the same episode where Martin is like, "Bart, drive my car"? Is that what that one is?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, cool.
But anyway.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but I like his score a lot for this movie. Genuinely, I think it has like a lot of interesting turns. There's like a sweet genteelness to the earlier stuff, and even the like. What is your favorite sort of like musical bit of this movie? It could be a song, it could be a bit of the score.
It's the beginning of like of "You've Got a Friend in Me," like just that little like doo-doo-doo-doo. Like I hear that, and it is like one of those moments that transports me to like being a child. It's just so perfect. I love it. I love the sound of it. It just sounds so fun, and like his voice is so unique and so great. And I was listening to some Randy Newman like of his own music before,
Right.
and of like from like the 70s, and he
political science and shit like that.
yeah. And it just makes so much sense that he would make a movie like he would make music for a movie like this.
Yeah, but though that was an interesting thing at the time because of like the nature of those songs. If you've never heard Randy Newman's like actual discography prior to like being the guy who does Pixar music, it's a lot of like very like dark satirical songs,
kind of jokey a bit.
They're jokey,
yeah,
but at the same time they're like very dark jokes. Like political science literally gets to be like, let's just nuke everybody. That's the premise of that fucking song. And then he just is like, "You got a friend in me." It's just like a very simple song.
Yep.
Or like all the songs are really, because it's that one. It's "Strange Days," which plays during the montage where like Andy is just like, playing with Buzz all the time. And she's like, "Strange things are happening to me."
It's a
like, okay,
great
we get
song.
it. Right. My favorite though is actually the "I Will Go Sailing No More," which is the sad song that plays over Buzz realizing he's a toy. I think just like works wonderfully to like illustrate, because obviously the point of these songs, a big reason why this even happened was because like just to really cement the legacy of Toy Story. When they hired Tom Hanks, when they approached him originally, that he was just like, "I don't know why you want me to do an animated movie. I can't sing." Because everyone was used to Disney musical animated films.
Right.
And the Pixar guys didn't want to do that for Toy Story. And Disney was like, "You should do songs." And they're like, "All right, middle split, we'll have songs in the movie that performed by Randy Newman that illustrate things about the movie." And in that song, the "I Will Go Sailing No More," it's kind of works as a weird satiric song if you take it out of context of just like someone who's going to go sailing. It's like, "Oh, never mind, I'm not going to do it. Life is pointless." But the fact that it's like scoring Buzz after the amazing fucking 90s ass commercial reveal, which is so great.
So
Penn
good.
Jillette doing the voice of that. It's like the real Buzz Lightyear. He's just like, "Oh, I'm so dejected, but wait, I can fly, I can do it." You can't fly. Guess what? In this Disney movie, you can't fly, Peter Pan. That's not happening here.
Yeah, it's such a great score. It's I love it, and it is very interesting that Randy Newman, he does like you said, he did a lot of scores early on, and then he basically does Pixar scores, and then he's done like a couple of Noah Baumbach scores,
Right.
and like a couple of stuff here and there, but that is like, I mean, he did the score for Meet the Fockers apparently, which is interesting. But yeah, it's such an interesting career he has, like in movies, making music for movies.
By the way, we're going long on Toy Story, so we're
Yeah.
probably going to wrap up soon, but I just want to briefly address, This might be a recurring thing for each movie. Best Original Song Oscar. One of the Oscars this movie was nominated for, along with Best Original Screenplay, and Best Score, Musical, or Comedy back when they did that as a thing.
Weird. I had no idea that was
Yeah, that
a
happened
thing.
it's like the early 90s to the late 90s they do that.
Okay.
That, and also he won the Special Achievement Oscar. I think one of the last examples of that. Of just like somebody getting an Oscar, just like, hey man, you did fucking Toy Story in the CG animated movie. You're the first one to do it here. And yeah, that's interesting. But the other song nominees are obviously there's You Got a Friend in Me is the one nominated. But also the song Moonlight from Sabrina, the remake of Sabrina, that stars Harrison Ford, with music by John Williams.
Okay.
He's nominated for that, one of his many Oscar nominations. The song Have You Ever Really Loved a Woman from Don Juan DeMarco, the Johnny Depp Marlon Brando movie from the 90s. I don't know if you know what that is.
I know of it, but I've never seen it.
Neither have I. Probably will never do that. And then the song Dead Man Walkin' from Dead Man Walking, which is done music and lyrics by Mr. Bruce Springsteen.
Cool.
But what one was Colors of the Wind from Pocahontas Round, making Steven Schwartz.
Oh.
Bad win. Bad song.
Bad
movie.
win, bad movie, bad all around. Oh. That's
What a deflation point.
that is such
that weird list of nominees, and then it's like, oh.
Yeah. And that's like a pretty okay list. I mean, you got John Williams in there, you got Bruce Springsteen. Ugh. That is
Bryan
so upsetting.
Adams for the Juan DeMarco song, and Michael Kamen. Michael Kamen, a very underrated composer. But anyway. So,
yes.
Any last thoughts on Toy Story? Because we got to move on, Brian. Any lingering things we didn't mention about Toy Story? Rapid fire.
It's just such a breezy movie. It's so fast. It's 81 minutes, like I keep saying. It is so much fun.
If you were watching Toy Story along with this, you're halfway through the movie.
Basically, yeah. Yeah. It rules. It's great. It is so incredible.
Yeah, I mean, just some of the other like bits and bops of like, because you can go on about like the different production stuff with this movie, where like there's the stuff I mentioned, but also even when they were trying to cast, like they almost got for Woody, they were considering Paul Newman, well, your Doc Hudson himself,
Weird.
Clint Eastwood, which would be so fun.
You've got a friend in me.
Oh, what Buzz? You're a space cowboy over there, aren't you?
You're a toy.
Right. And then they got Tom Hanks. But then the original choice that they were really pulling for Buzz, because along with Tom Hanks, they animated some audio from Turner and Hooch to like the earlier version of Woody. And then they did the same thing for Billy Crystal using dialogue from When Harry Met Sally. And he was infamously just like, oh, this looks dumb, I'm not going to do it. Because like a computer animated movie, no one's going to see it. And he's like, fuck.
Interesting.
Hey, do you have any one-eyed monsters that could play?
Mike
We have monsters like-
Wazowski.
Okay, that'll work. I was thinking another thing, but that'll work. But anyway, Billy Crystal 100% made that joke. But anyway, yeah. So this movie though, childhood favorite. Really love it. Definitely, just a movie also from my childhood that just holds up tremendously well. Is like so
absolutely.
well done. Just especially like I mentioned the whole thing about the climax earlier. I touched on that, but all the stuff with like them racing down the road. And then Woody's just like, oh, let's do the match. Oh no, it doesn't work. Oh wait, the sunlight thing.
Mm-hmm.
And like it's interesting that we paired this with Back to the Future, because I would argue that's a similarly just like perfectly crafted sort of screenplay.
Yeah.
In the same regard to like a Toy Story, just like the beats hit perfectly, all the way to like despite the limited animation, the bit where they actually fly for a bit. And Buzz recalls it like, it's not flying, it's falling with style.
Yeah.
Is one of just my favorite moments in a movie.
Yeah, and every time you know it's coming, and it's still it hits every single time. I do also just touch on that sort of ending sequence. I love, just the car and the fact that they have the dog chasing them. It's such a perfectly crafted sequence. I love Woody gets onto the truck and then they're like they throw him off. They're like, get him out of here, he's a murderer. It's so perfect. It's such a great thrilling final sequence. Yeah.
Which is all the more funny considering the other thing we just didn't mention about this. It's so funny seeing from toys' perspectives. Just
Yeah.
like, that's the true charm of this movie. It's just like the different like, oh my god, this massive thing's happening on like one block, I think, of like suburban street.
Basically. Yeah. And I think that, we'll talk about this, I guess, a little bit more as the movies progress, but like the sort of underlying like sort of thing of this movie being like, what if toys were real and like did things as
I mean, they are real. I'm not a toy conspiracy theorist. I do believe toys are real. I don't know if you're part of that fringe r/conspiracy toys aren't real.
Yeah, I guess let me rephrase it. What if toys came to life and did things while we were
gone?
Yeah,
and they stopped.
But also like then sort of goes into like with the kind of Buzz stuff. Like, what if a toy found out he was a toy and had like a purpose, and it wasn't what he was quote unquote made for and stuff like that. And the sequels obviously go further into that, as we'll get into, but yeah.
Yes. So we're gonna transition over to the next film, but as a little breather, I just want to briefly mention the miscellany I have listed between the first two Toy Stories is a thing called Toy Story Treats.
Okay.
Which I'm sure you don't know what that is.
Googling now.
Briefly, Toy Story Treats was a series of small animated bumpers that aired on like ABC's One Saturday Morning.
Okay.
The programming block that I watched as a child a lot, as a very young kid. And they would have these, I remember distinctly, like, some of these, like, lesser animated little segments. I just realized, like, they're not as good as the first Toy Story even. But they're fun little bits. I like seeing these characters again in, like, these small bite-sized chunks. And this is the first time also where, just trivia factoid, most of the time, when you see Woody in, like, a non-filmic text, the voice is Jim Hanks, Tom's brother, who, if you've never seen him, looks like just a very skinny version of Tom Hanks from what I remember, because he showed up in Scrubs. That was the thing I remember, because in Scrubs... Yeah, right? You're looking at him, I assume, over there.
Yeah. He kind of looks like, and there's a Google image, like, this comes up, like, he looks a bit like the character from Cloud Atlas that Tom Hanks plays. That's like what is he? He's like a critic or like or something. It's what he plays with, like...
Is the one in the LA section, right, where he has the big monologue at the party?
Yeah. I don't remember what he... Yeah, he looks kind of like that, but less gangstery.
Yeah. I mean, bald and everything, but also skinnier. And
Yeah.
I was just saying, in Scrubs, I saw him, because it's him and the guy from... I forgot the actor's name, who was the hotel clerk on Sweet Life of Zack and Cody.
Mr. Mosby.
Right. In Scrubs, there's a bit where, like, they're looking at a board of just like, oh man, we got scheduled for a bunch of shifts, and they play Turner and Hooch. That's the whole thing. It's Jim Hanks there. But anyway, yeah, so those little treats have Jim Hanks, and not Tim Allen, I assume, either. Not pretty much any of I think maybe Wallace Shawn, though he's one of many people who, like, if you were in these fucking original voices cast, like, you're set for life. You don't need to work again. At all. With residuals and stuff. But anyway, so flash forward to 1999. Toy Story 2 comes out. Thanksgiving weekend of 1999. Directed by Mr. Lasseter again. But, also you got, like, Andrew Stanton and people writing, like, Andrew Stanton is often credited with at least writing the draft that they finally used in Toy Story, the first one. Okay. And he was obviously very instrumental here, but the whole story group's obviously involved with this. And we pick up, a couple years later, I think, in the timeline of the first Toy Story. And this is the one where, much like any great film of 1999, it gets existential about just, like, the nature of your purpose. And I think I can easily state this for me, and I'm not sure, we haven't discussed rankings necessarily yet. This is the best Toy Story.
Oh, easily. Yeah. Hands
Yes.
down.
Yeah.
One of the best animated movies ever made. I watched this movie, I think this movie, so many times. Like, just, it is, every single scene is just in my brain. This was the one I watched the most. I loved it so much. What's interesting about Toy Story 2 is that, like, especially if you watch it right after Toy Story 1, the leap in quality in terms of, like, the technology is pretty impressive. Like
You could say they worked out a lot of the bugs.
Yeah. Bugs Life.
Hey! Look, fair for this movie. If you watch the blooper version, they show up.
Very funny, actually. Yeah, I love this movie so much. I mean, I think it's perfect. I mean, like, I would almost hesitate to say that, but I think it's pretty damn near perfect.
Yeah, I mean, to go back to my sort of origin story with Toy Story.
Yeah.
Like, I mentioned the blooper things earlier, like, a big connecting factor for, like, because first Toy Story comes out, I have 2 younger sisters. One of them is not born yet, and the other one is, like, very small. And then by the time of the second Toy Story, we all liked Toy Story a lot. That was a mutual sort of, like, we agree on this.
Yep.
We don't agree on a lot of other things, and there's fights and scrabbles, particularly with certain... I won't name her name, necessarily, but anyway. It was just, I remember distinctly the middle child of the 3 of us, the 2 of us really just loved the whole idea of the bloopers, because they were introduced in A Bug's Life, which was doing very well, and then, like, because it came out in November, and then by December, Disney Channel ads were just like, we got bloopers now, come see A Bug's Life in theaters, and we were just like, we're fucking seeing those bloopers, because we love the idea of bloopers. And then the same thing happened with Toy Story 2, and with, I don't know if Monsters Inc. they did the demand thing, like they did the later release or not, but they were definitely bloopers there, and then that disappears from the Pixar movies after that point.
A tragedy. I always loved the bloopers at the end of this because
Because Finding Nemo didn't have bloopers, right? That doesn't have bloopers in it, right?
I'm pretty sure it does.
I know it didn't happen with Incredibles. I remember that being like, oh, they're not doing it.
No, definitely not.
Though, interestingly, I think they kind of, like, the swan song of the bloopers is the teaser trailer for The Incredibles. I don't know if you remember.
Yes. Oh my god.
Yes,
That's
where he's trying to
just-
put the belt on and everything, right?
God.
Not in the movie, but it's so
What a
funny as, like, a
memory.
little bit. Yeah, hell yeah. But anyway, yeah, so R.I.P. bloopers, we miss you. Come on, that would have spiced up Elemental. If you know, just like the water person was like, oh, let's have a hug. Oh no, I disintegrated.
That'd be really
Wop.
funny.
That'd be really funny. You might get an extra half star if you bring back the bloopers, Pixar. Just saying. First decree.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, Toy Story 2, I do agree with you. I think it is such a well-made movie. And that's despite the fact that if you thought that stuff I talked about with Toy Story was weird with the production, get ready. Because Toy Story 2 was originally conceived as direct-to-video film. This is the, like, early start of Disney doing direct-to-video sequels like the Aladdin Return of Jafar and shit like that. So originally this is conceived as a straight-to-video sequel. And then John Lasseter was, like, looking at the sides because Disney, like, saw some of the rushes and were like, this could actually be theatrical. John Lasseter and the team watched the storyboards and were like, we don't like this. We want to, like, completely redo this. And we would love to do it. And Disney is just like, okay, cool. The movie still has to come out Thanksgiving 1999. This is established in late 1998. Because they have 9 months to get the movie to what it is here. And for a, CG animated movie, they usually take, somewhere between 2 to 3 years to make. Pretty much. So cutting that time down by a fourth is such a, like, fucking dangerous thing. And a lot of stuff nearly happened with this movie. There's a whole story about somebody put in the accidental, like, deletion code at the Pixar offices, and 99% of the movie got deleted. And everyone was just like, we worked on this for, like, 3 months, and we have 4 more months to finish it or whatever. How the fuck is it gonna happen? And one of, like, the key, I want to get her name, because I have that trivia bit in the notes. Galen Sussman, the technical director, was working remotely because she just had a baby. And she's like, I took the whole movie home and it's on, like, a floppy disk or something at my house on the hard drive. And they got her hard drive and like, oh god, we saved the movie.
God, a fucking hero. That's
The
insane.
legend.
That's an insane story. Yeah.
And you would never tell because this movie's, like, so perfectly made. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's the thing, is when you hear about the behind the scenes of this movie and you watch the movie, it just doesn't, I mean, you can tell kind of in a similar way to the first movie where it's like it moves at such a breakneck pace, Like the pacing of this movie is just relentless. Every scene is
Now
just
90 minutes with credits, so a bit more time.
a bit more
cushion
you
time.
you don't feel it though. Like it is, yeah, and you feel it in that regard, but I don't think you feel it in really anything else. I mean, like the humans look a bit better, but
Right. Al himself, Wayne Knight, amazing.
God, what a incredible, what a great character. So great.
You could get big bucks.
One of my favorite moments is him. I can't believe I have to drive all the way to work on a Saturday.
On a Saturday. Oh, it work.
So
So good. Yes. Phenomenal stuff. But yeah, the other people also look great. Shout out, we didn't mention her in the first movie, but she's there, and in the third movie as well. Laurie Metcalf herself.
Yeah, I never
Andy's
knew it
mom.
was Laurie Metcalf until very
But you hear it and you're like,
recently.
oh, of course it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And John Morris, who is the voice of Andy in the first 3 movies, and he's solid kid actor voice. We didn't mention that, but he's like pretty solid as Andy. He feels like the most generic white child possible.
He does. Yeah. American Child.
We'll talk about him in 3, because we have things to talk about in terms of Andy at 17. But anyway, yeah. So with Toy Story, I mean, let's talk about our new people. We get some new folks that pop up in this movie, because obviously this is the one all about like Woody discovering the whole Woody's Roundup, his origin story as an action figure, piece of merchandise, and he meets up with his cohorts from the series, Bullseye, who has a dog voice and is like wonderful. I love the animation on Bullseye and how he kind of has a similar sort of leg structure. Also as well, Jessie is voiced by Joan Cusack, the yodeling cowgirl, as we all know. And then Stinky Pete the Prospector, as wonderfully voiced by another person I don't want to talk about, but damn it, he is very talented at playing cartoon villains and various things. Kelsey Grammer, wonderful, easily I think also the best Toy Story villain. I mean, Sid's there, but Stinky Pete is definitely the more like developed character.
Yeah.
In terms of like his whole arc. And also Kelsey Grammer's really funny and he's a talented person at times. But fuck him too.
Yeah. I love Jessie. One of my
Yes.
favorite characters, all of like the Toy Story movies. I love I love her the animation that she has, just her expressiveness, but also just
Yes.
Joan Cusack is so great. I love the voice performance of Jessie. It's so fun and so lively. It's just
It's such a good foil for Hanks as well. Their back and forth is like so wonderfully done.
it is
And just
right.
genuinely just like they're these two, cowpoke who have a lot of like gumption and chutzpah. And they resist making them romantic partners because obviously the OTP would come up at the end of this film of Jessie and Buzz, everyone's one true pairing.
Yeah, I don't know. I just love her character so much. I think it's such a great, unique character, and I think her origin is, I think, probably one of the like first times I was like, oh, movies can be really emotional and really like just
Right.
tear your heart out because it just is so heartbreaking.
Which I think is the thing that kind of separates this from the first Toy Story, where I think the closest they get in the first Toy Story is the scene we didn't really mention about, after, obviously, like, Buzz's whole thing where, like, he falls apart. It's the scene particularly where, like, Woody and Buzz talk at, like, the rainy night before the rocket launch.
Yeah.
It's, like, a genuinely great example of, like, going back and forth, just like, what's the point? Dealing with that nihilism versus, like, establishing the thesis of these movies. I'm just like, you are Andy's toy, and that's a great thing. That's the closest, but then Toy Story 2 just, like, goes from, like, oh, isn't this kind of sad, buddy kind of tap on the shoulder to, like, gut punch.
Yep.
Just a true punch in the guts.
Yeah, I mean, it is like Toy Story 1 is like, what if toys came to life? And then Toy Story 2 is very much like, what if toys felt abandonment and loneliness and
Yes.
a loss of sense of purpose and, direction in like their toy lives.
A sense of inevitability as well.
Yeah.
Of just like, this kid's gonna grow up.
Yeah.
You're not gonna go with him to college. Maybe, depending on how that adventure goes. Well, maybe we'll find out in a bit. But just like there's a finality to all of this, and it's so personalized to just particularly Woody, which that's the interesting thing is how a big reason we'll talk about this in Toy Story 4, why I think that movie works, is the fact that like as much as like Buzz and Woody are like the sort of the linchpins, as I remember in the advertising for this movie as a child, the toys are back in town. Dun. I remember that teaser as well. It's also like the whole Toy Story sort of through line is Woody's character arc. Pretty much. Woody is the central sort of like character who grows and changes, has some familiar traits that he keeps or certain personality things, but him just sort of like coming to terms with like what his existence as a toy really means. And that's very much illustrated with, his sort of revelations about who Jessie is, which doesn't make Jessie just like a tool for Woody, which I think a worse movie would do. Because she feels very developed, where it's just like the stuff where she's going to go in the box, and she doesn't want to go in the box, she's claustrophobic, and she's like breathing heavily, she has this anxiety about it. It makes you feel like, oh man, this toy's in like distress. This is not just like, yeehaw, I'm a yodeling cowgirl. She has shit she went through, dude. And all laid out. Let's just do it now while we're talking about Jessie. Let's get the cry moment out of the way. The big moment. The montage set to the Academy Award nominated song When She Loved Me, written by Randy Newman, but as sung by the angel in the arms herself, Sarah McLachlan, is like such a keystone moment for like the history of Pixar, but also just as a like brief montage telling you the entire story of all this with a song. It's heartbreaking. It's one of the like just most beautifully little done animated sequences I've ever seen.
Yeah, and I think, and I'll get a little bit more into this as we talk about this movie, but I think you see a lot of the kind of modern Pixar in this movie. Like,
yes,
and this montage is so much of it, of like what Pixar does so well with like, it's all visual. Of course, the music helps, but like the storytelling is all visual, and it's told in this, very beautifully done montage that just tells you exactly what you need to know, and it gives you just exactly the amount of heartbreak, I guess, that you need. Yeah, it's just one of those moments where you're just like, yeah, this is Pixar. This is what people love so much about them, and what they do so well when they are like at the height of their powers, I think.
Yeah. And just the use of that song, which, we'll talk about this here as well, in a bit, just about the Oscar nature of it. But, it's like such a great example of like a song that could be sappy. I would argue if you ever listen to the demos where you hear Randy Newman's version, it's a bit more treacly. It was a wise decision to get McLachlan to do it. I think because she has such like a very sincere voice that is describing like just a heartbreaking thing. Like if you remove the context, that song is so still sad on its own, of just like maybe about just a relationship that broke up entirely. But the sort of like human connective metaphor is there. But it's about like a toy who was played with by this like girl who she like loved so dearly, and then seeing just the evolution of like her getting disinterested, not being a horse girl anymore, which I love. The implication, she's a horse girl with like the painting and shit or whatever, and slowly eroding, having the hint that it's the 60s era because of like the sort of posters and stuff that are put up there, giving you a sense of time. And then, ultimately having the one brief moment of connection where she's like, oh, we're together. She picked me up under the bed after collecting dust for so long. I'm with her. And then she gets put in a box. Girl drives away.
Yep.
And yeah, Waterworks.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such a great segment, and I think we'll get to Toy Story 4, but I think that does a much better job than what Toy Story 4 does in some cases. But yeah, I just it's so sad. It's just such a sad moment.
Now, let's lift up our spirits with the Oscar nominees for Best Original Song for this particular category. This is the only Oscar was nominated for, by the way. But, We and She Loved Me was nominated, but also Music of My Heart from this movie of the same name, the Wes Craven Meryl Streep movie.
I've never seen that movie, no.
But are you aware, like, this is a movie that happened? Like, it's his one non-horror movie that he made during the middle of that run. It's like Meryl Streep and Angela Bassett are in. Meryl Streep plays like this music teacher who moves to an inner city neighborhood, and so teaches them the music of my heart. All the kids at this inner city school, right next to Angela Bassett. Very treacly, yeah, from what I remember. I saw that in the theater as well because my mom dragged me to that. I remember the main song, "The Music of My Heart," very well. I believe it's NSYNC does that, and Gloria Estefan, I think, do the vocal version of that, if I'm right. Very 90s. Let me
you are correct.
double check.
Gloria Estefan
Yes, yeah.
and NSYNC.
I know that song very well because my mother would not stop playing that song in the car. Then "Save Me" from Magnolia, Amy Mann's great song.
Yeah, that's a great song.
Wonderful, wonderful nomination. A very fun nomination, "Blame Canada" from South Park, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut. Trey Parker and Matt Stone are Oscar nominees for this particular movie. And you know the whole thing of they went to the awards. One, they were tripping on acid.
Cool.
And then also they wore the dresses that Gwyneth Paltrow and Jennifer Lopez wore the previous Oscars.
Okay.
There are pictures of that. It's very funny. But also, we maybe talk about South Park at some point. I have a long, complicated history with that show.
Yeah, me too.
The movie, I think, is still good. I would say.
I have never seen
good.
any of the movies.
Never seen the movie?
No,
There's only one theatrical movie. They did those, like, COVID specials or whatever. I don't know, so I'm aware those exist. But anyway, but that's a fun nomination still, especially at the awards. It's sung by Robin Williams.
Oh, that's
he
cool.
comes out and sings it during the ceremony. That's a very cool clip.
Yeah.
And they have to censor the use of "fuck" in that song as well for the broadcast. It's funny. But what one, of course, as would be referenced on South Park, "You'll Be in My Heart" from Tarzan by Phil Collins.
Oh. I have not seen that movie in such a long time, and it's one of those, like, people will talk about the score and how, like, just how hard Phil Collins went on the score. I don't remember the score in that movie that well. Like, I don't know why.
I do, and I'm gonna say it right here. Any of you kids logging on Letterboxd about Phil Collins going so hard for this movie, listen to some Genesis or something, guys. Go back a bit, Phil Collins is a very talented musician for a lot of things. "You'll Be in My Heart's not one of the top. I prefer "Son of Man," that song that plays during, like, the montage where Tarzan, like, first meets Jane. That's a very good song, I think. That's easily the best song on that soundtrack. But anyway, that's a different discussion.
Yeah, I should watch Tarzan
Tarzan's a
again.
weird movie.
It is a very weird movie, but
very weird movie. But anyway, so yeah, that's the winner. What about that lineup? How do you feel about that one?
Pretty fun up until Tarzan, because
maybe a recurring theme, the winner.
Oh boy,
kind of feels like a weird deflation point.
Yeah.
But anyway, we gotta go back to Toy Story 2 because we've also been talking for a bit, but we got to like spend some more time. So
I was gonna begin with the sort of the beginning and the sort of
that's a very good place to start.
My boy Zurg, who I love and I think is so cool. I've always loved the opening of this movie with, like, the being inside the video game, and, like, it's just so fun, and also has sort of this, the whole movie has this everything is childhood logic, where, like, in my head watching it this time, I'm like, this video game doesn't make any sense as a video game. It makes no sense. Right. But, like, I believe it, where I'm like, when I was a kid, I thought that's what video games looked like in my head. And kind of similar to, like, the airport sequence, where I'm like, even as an adult now, I'm like, those behind the curtain sort of segments don't look like that. But in my head, I'm like, they do. They're all like that. They're all that big and labyrinthian. But yeah, I've always just loved the opening of this, and just the inclusion of Zurg, which is so bizarre and so weird.
He's so funny. It's like the design for, like, a Buzz Lightyear villain.
Yeah,
and it looks like so perfect for that. With just, like, I'm looking at your Zoom background now.
Yeah,
and I'm just marveling at, like, the cape, the look of it, the look of, like, the gun that he has with the little fucking foam balls in it.
I've always loved that the gun is connected to him with that, like, tube thing.
Yes.
It's just so cool. It's such a great piece of design.
Even the design of his Z on his fucking cape, we're just like, oh, it's like a normal Z, and then it turns into a lightning bolt.
Yeah, and the way his mouth, like, illuminates as he talks and everything.
It's just a grid like Bender from Futurama.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, basically.
Which premiered around the same time, interestingly enough.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, it's such a wonderful design. I agree with you about sort of that opening, even though from my perspective, like, admittingly, one of my earliest video games is the Toy Story 2 license game for N64.
Absolutely.
Played that a lot, never got past the elevator level because I was a child. I got frustrated. Yeah, at the same time, it's such a great opening, even just for me, where, like, this is also the November after Phantom Menace, and it's a very Star Wars heavy reference thing with, like, the Jabba the Hutt, like, camera thing. That robot basically comes out during the sequence. And, you know, that would become a later thing with, like, the Buzz, I am your father, which is so... I can't tell you how many different fucking parodies of that I saw as a child.
Oh, yeah.
Where I did see Empire Strikes Back, and then just every single parody. I would argue this is, like, a top-tier one. Not because of, like, the actual moment where he references it necessarily, but when other Buzz is just like, father, and then the catch thing.
That's the funniest.
The payoff of the catch is so fucking funny.
Good throw, son. That it is.
I'm playing catch with my dad.
And also, but like that moment is so silly, because it's in the middle of this very like tense sort of like, we have to chase the chicken man. He's going on the elevator. Go go go! And then like this Star Wars reference happens, and you're just like, wait, what? Because it's so silly. Yeah, I love it. It's so great.
This is also another movie like the first one that is structured impeccably, with just like how we get sort of like, you know, Woody and like the whole thing with Wheezy, which I love Wheezy. Joe Rant, his like big vocal performance. He's also like the binoculars guy in the first movie.
Yes, I love that guy.
Oh, it's Woody. Look at him. Yeah, that guy. And then but yeah, Wheezy is like such a great character just to establish, and just this whole like old toys who don't get picked up anymore
on the shelf,
covered in dust. Yeah, but with the squeaker that isn't working anymore. And then, you know, there's also the nightmare sequence that happens here, which is great.
Yeah,
which was originally for the first Toy Story, and then they reused it here after they cut it, and amazing, works so perfect. I don't want to play with you anymore. Another horror thing. Like all the toy arms that grab Woody, and drag him into the trash can.
That was probably like the first sort of like moment as a kid seeing that where I'm like, it's sort of, I'm realizing like, oh, this is a dream sequence, right? Like realizing that like the way that you can,
and what that meets for the character. And
yeah, sort of an early moment for that, which is so fascinating.
But yeah, then like all the stuff like happens where it gets picked up by Al, and then the toys. Like I can't emphasize enough how like, obviously the Woody stuff has a lot of great jokes and a lot of like the great emotional grounding, but the whole side B plot of Buzz and the various characters trying to save Woody is so funny. Just every bit. It's some of my favorite bits for any of these characters is this whole journey they're going on.
And like I love the fact that like the sequence where like Woody tries to save Wheezy from the yard sale, everything, but I love like that the part where Woody gets kidnapped is all from their perspective. And I love that he's like, he's getting in the box for 25 cents. Ah, come on, he's worth more than that.
Like, it's going to be so hard.
Yeah, they're all so funny, and just their banter is so great. And I will agree with you, like that whole sequence of them like going from the house to the like Al's toy barn is so great. I just love,
especially like the sequence, like they're the start of their journey, where it's like they're going away. And we should mention Estelle Harris playing Mrs. Potato Head.
I'm packing your angry eyes.
Yeah, just in case.
So great.
Wonderful. And the blooper version of that's amazing later on, which is like all the different things. Just like, and here's Monkey Chow. Monkey Chow for what? The monkeys. It's like, that's it. I don't do monkeys. I'm gonna go back to my trailer. So good. But yeah, that whole start, which is like we're gonna leave, and like the whole like practical use of Slinky Dog, or just like help us get down from this part of the roof. And then later on, when they're all running around, and fucking Ham is just like, he falls over, and it's like, all right, nobody look until I put my clerk back in. I think that feels like the closest to sort of like bathroom humor, I would argue.
Yeah.
The first two Toy Stories. They avoid that, which is a big problem I have with the later film in this franchise. Put a pin in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that stuff works, and then later on, like, fucking Rex's whole journey. His arc throughout this movie, just like, he failed at the game earlier. It's just like, oh, I need to get the magazine.
The guide.
And show everybody the guide. I love, there's a one point, a Wallace Shawn, probably my favorite delivery he does in any of these movies, is the bit where he's like, they make you buy the video game, and then you have to buy the guide in order to like get
It's
it to work.
extortion. That's what it
It's
is.
extortion. That's right up there with like the earlier bit in the first movie, where it's just like, I'm from Mattel. Well, not actually Mattel. I'm from a different subsidiary that got bought up by Mattel. Such perfect use of Wally Shawn.
Yeah.
And all like, but how do you feel about sort of the structure that this movie goes along?
Oh,
I feel like it's just as evenly plotted as the first Toy Story in that way.
Yeah, even more so, I would say. Like this one is just so perfectly paced, where like, yeah, all those jokes during that sort of sequence are great. My favorite one is the one where they're all tired and it's before they finally reach like the road, and it's another Ham one where he's like, some of you guys aren't carrying $6 worth of change. It's great, yeah, and I love like the sequence that follows that, which is so great, is like them crossing the street where they cause like a fucking 20-car pileup, and it's just so goofy. It is so silly and ridiculous, and yet it works so well.
But it's also great suspense filmmaking as a kid. So at the same time, like, are they gonna get crushed? Like as an adult, you know that's not gonna happen. When I don't know, I was 7 when this came out, so like sort of the perfect age to be like, oh my god, I'm so invested in like, are the toys gonna get flattened or whatever.
I will say every time when like they're crossing the street and Mr. Potato Head's like foot gets caught on the gum, every time I'm still kind of like, for a minute I'm like, no, is he gonna get? Oh, okay. Like I still do that every single time. I don't know,
because that's the cinder block, which even I as a kid knew, like, oh my god, that's gonna crush him. Yeah, and just the fact also that they do this whole thing only for like the wide shot to make you realize, oh wait, right, they just left where Woody is at the other side of the street. Yeah. So funny.
It's great. Yeah.
And Chad, then we get to Al's Toy Barn. Tour guide Barbie, you know, the trailblazer that gave us Barbie 2023. Tour guide Barbie, as voiced by Jodie Benson of the Little Mermaid fame, Ariel herself.
Oh, really? Huh.
Which you can, like, that's another one where you can totally tell.
Yeah.
It's such a great vocal performance, just like the please hold all questions till the end of the tour. And the way she's like kind of robotic. And then the blooper thing is so funny too. Like she's the last thing at the very mid credits. We're just like, all right, everybody. I remember this very vividly as a child leaving the theater. Of her just being like, all right, please, everybody, have a good night.
Yeah.
Make sure to put away your receptacles in the trash on your way out. Are they gone? Are they gone? Oh. My cheek is killing. He's such a funny delivery.
It's great. Yeah. I love the whole segment in the toy store, because like it makes so much sense for them to like do it, like, you know, let's set it in a toy store. You have so many other toys. Yeah.
We didn't go there in the first movie.
Yeah. And yeah, I love like the segment with Buzz and the other Buzz, like when he's sort of like like when he wakes him up, and just that like thing where he's like, was I really this deluded?
Oh, yep.
It's perfect. It is the perfect moment you need for him, because like it gives you that same kind of that feeling of like, yeah, remember when Buzz was like that at the beginning of the movie and how fucking silly it was, and shows you kind of the progression of this character over like this movie and a half at this point.
Right. Yeah, and him going down the aisle, especially because, you know, being a child who was alive after 1995, I had a Buzz Lightyear action figure. Of course I did. And just that, I think genuinely, like, they make this reference at one point in Toy Story 3, but I think it is still valid that, like, the Buzz Lightyear toy is one of the best toys that's ever, I would argue, existed within, like, that 90s realm in particular. It has, like, such great articulation and the different, like, you know, sort of bits and bops that he pushes his inner voice for Toy Story 4. And I love how they have Buzz look at this toy, his actual self, and he's just like, am I really that fat? And just, like, sizing his chin. And then just the distinctive point of, like, our Buzz is the one without the helmet on. And the actual Buzz, like, still thinks that, you know, paying off wonderfully. And then just like, who's the real Buzz? And just, like, pushing the button. And then the Andy on his foot.
Yeah.
It's so wonderfully done. That whole, that dynamic is so funny.
Yeah, it's great. Just that whole segment of, like, and it's such a unique, like, thing to have this extra character who has no idea what's going on in the plot really, and is only like, Zurg, the evil emperor, we can stop him. Like that, is his drive, and
a clone of one of our main leads doesn't usually happen.
Yeah, and yet it works so well, and it never derails it never derails the sort of actual weight of what's happening in like when we get to the room and everyone's together in that emotional sequence. And yeah, it's this is a great movie, believe it or not.
One of my favorite comedic beats, that even as a kid I was just like, this is so like just funny animation, is with Zurg, to go back to him, when our Buzz ends up finally leaving the toy store, and then he does like the thing with like, oh, it falls over, and then just like Zurg rises from his packaging, and then you go behind him. Great that he has like the infrared like goggle thing.
Oh, I loved that. You can see the Zurg vision.
Yeah, hell yeah, that rule. And then him like, he's just like, oh, I'm gonna destroy him, and then the wide shot of like Buzz running, and then Zurg awkwardly wheeling because he's almost just like, destroy Buzz Lightyear. It almost feels like the Daleks from Doctor Who or some
very
shit.
Dalek.
Just like, this is so ineffective. It's so fun.
Yeah, it's so good. And yeah, the elevator section as well, as we're kind of moving on, like here, is so great.
The reveal of like something we didn't mention with like the other things that's going on, like Woody, meanwhile.
Yes.
Woody just like discovering more stuff about Woody's Roundup and like seeing the merchandise. And apparently I love the whole bit where Woody's looking around at the different toys of himself, was literally Tom Hanks just being introduced to like the different things, like for the first time, like the designs.
That's so cool.
That's how he's like, oh, there's a snake in my boot. It's like all improvised. It's so funny.
Yeah.
It shows how like Tom Hanks, obviously everyone just knows, just like, oh, he's, your dad, like America's dad, Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
But this movie, it's just like such a great example of like his comedic timing that he had ever since he was young.
One of my favorite segments in this movie is the section where I don't know the old guy's name, the guy who cleans and like fixes Woody. I don't know if they ever.
Well, I mean, he just credited as the cleaner.
Okay.
Voiced by Jonathan Harris, who people might know from either previous year he was in A Bug's Life as the praying mantis guy, and then in Back in the Past, like the role he's known for is in the original Lost in Space. He plays Dr. Smith.
Oh, interesting.
Just like the pain, like that guy.
Right.
This is one of his last movies, but he has a great delivery too, with just like you can't rush art and stuff like that. It's so funny. That whole sequence is wonderfully animated.
It's one of my favorite sequences. I love it so much. Just the cleaning of it, the way he's like stitches him back, and like watching something being cleaned is so satisfying.
Him sewing and everything, and then
it's so good.
Yeah, wonderfully done. And probably my favorite bit of the score as well.
Yes.
That Randy Newman is doing for that bit. But then, yeah, I mean, we've been talking a while. We got to move on very soon. But just to shout out, we should mention the whole ending sequence. Like, after you mentioned the elevator and all the arguments before Stinky Pete is revealed as a saboteur. Yep. And, all the Woody's Roundup, like, stuff comes to a head when we go to the airport and go through the luggage, and the whole Pizza Planet truck chase leading up to that. And then, the big ending where they finally pull off Woody's Roundup. Yep. So wonderful, especially in contrast to, we didn't talk about that much, but the amazing like episodes footage we see of Woody's Roundup with the puppet, the marionettes.
Yeah, the marionettes.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
Especially like, oh, what, the little critters are coming. What's that, little critters? Oh, you're saying that Jesse and Stinky Peter in a well. Yeah. They just go on and on. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So good.
And this is kind of getting into a bit of like what I was saying earlier, where like you see so much of modern Pixar in this, where like how many Pixar movies has that sort of like third act twist of the villain, and this is one of those ones where it works really, really well, and I like making a villain that is understandable, and you get why he makes a good point. Let me defend Stinky Pete the Prospector here, but
in my 4-hour YouTube video, where I defend
Stinky Pete was right. No, but he has like a good point, right? In that sense of like, yeah, like Andy's gonna grow up, and I always remember that line he has where he's like, "You'll be adored forever by children all over the world or something like that. And it's
Forever.
Yeah, forever. Yes. And it's for a minute you're like, "Oh, that makes sense. Like, why wouldn't he take up that offer?" But also, yeah, it's the conflict of Woody as a character.
And also a thing that you mentioned, like, it would happen a lot in Pixar movies, but even once Mr. Lasseter transitions over to the Walt Disney animation side of things, a lot of those movies also follow a very similar structure.
Yeah. But
To varying degrees of how that works.
yeah, it's a very weird. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But it works really well here, and I love, just that whole ending sequence in the baggage. What would you call that? Like the baggage
Claim.
Baggage claim.
Or like, well, not baggage claim. That would be where they would go to later.
Yeah,
if they
it's like
flew in the flight. The onboarding luggage area.
Such a smart also section of just like, having this big area and just all these labyrinthian like passage, what are they called?
Yeah, I know what the like little tram things.
Yeah,
so,
like just so many of those, and
the thing where it's like the escalator where you're like walking straight, like when you're going to Universal Studios or whatever. I don't know what that's called, but like the flat escalator. Let's call it that.
Yeah,
it's a flat escalator.
Look, it's late, okay? Yeah, but that whole sequence is so like genius, where like they look into the luggage and they get the camera and the flash and everything. It's just
nice flash though.
Great, just so great. That photographer must have been pissed when he arrived at wherever he was going.
Oh hell yeah! All those flashes gone.
Yeah, it's so expensive probably.
Right, and then even I think I want to say, Stinky Pete getting his comeuppance here, I think also really works because like it's not so much. There's a world where like it could be he's now drawn up like he's gonna be drawn up like this Barbie, which is like covered. He's gonna become a weird Barbie. Basically, in modern parlance. But I think it works wonderfully just because he has this whole thing where it's like, I'm mint in box, allegedly. And so I feel like I'm not mint.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, I'm not going to sit on a dime store shelf. Great delivery. Yeah, but just like that reveal where it's like, oh no, it's not that he's like going to be made up to be like a weird Barbie. It's like, oh, he's just so mint and pristine that like he sees being played with as like a damage. Like his worst fear possible. Works very well as an ironic punishment, and then the Jesse saving thing, like the escalation all the way up to that, wonderfully done.
Yeah,
and then leading up to the most '90s kids movie joke in this movie, where they're just like, "Let's go home."
Yep,
it was very
great,
very '90s kids movie. And then a little coda happens where Jesse gets on the race car track, which I mean, amazing shout out to a scene we didn't even talk about in the first movie, but a great callback.
Yeah,
and Buzz having an erection joke ostensibly with the
it
the
is
wings.
Basically it's
yeah
and yet like it still kind of works in a weird way. I don't know, it's just that early Pixar magic, but and
ending up on Wheezy singing "You Got a Friend in Me."
Great, just
great with the Robert Goulet voice, amazing, terrific.
Yeah,
but so. A thing we didn't mention about the previous Toy Story, but also this one, massive hits. Massive, huge hits when they came out. First movie cost $30 million, made $394 million, and the second movie had a budget of $90 and made $512 million in mid and late 90s money, respectively.
Yeah.
So a lot of money, very successful films. And that led to, in between, there's a big gap here. This is the first huge gap, because like 95 to 99, just 4 years, that makes sense. Then 1999 to 2010, huge gap here.
Very big gap.
A lot of things happen. A lot of Buzz Lightyear focused stuff in the early 2000s, where you had Buzz Lightyear of Star Command, including the original movie, where Wayne Knight comes back to voice Zurg. I don't know if you knew that.
Sorry, what?
Wayne Knight is Zurg, and he does it as like a Tim Curry impression. He's actually very good at doing that. And it's Tim Allen voices Buzz. He redubbed it for like the movie pilot, but on the show proper, Patrick Warburton. Perfect choice.
Okay.
Wonderful choice. But
yeah, it is.
And that one has. I don't. Did you ever watch that show at all? I'm guessing you didn't.
No, I have very limited experience with any of the sort of outside Pixar stuff. I may have seen like some of it on some DVD, but
Yeah.
I cannot remember.
But, you know, I mean, a lot of great stuff in this. I just want to briefly shout out some, like, the weird voice cast. Like, Diedrich Bader voices the sort of nega Buzz that shows up, who's, like, blue.
Cool.
And he's, like, his former partner. Before I should mention a book that has a similar title, there is a vampire robot named Nos for A2, voiced by Craig Ferguson, who was a recurring villain. I think maybe only here one episode, I don't remember, but I remember I had a toy of that guy. He was cool. If you look up his design, he's like all like triangle-y.
What's his name?
He's got Nos, N-O-S, number 4, A, number 2.
Of course.
Yes.
Really easy to type on a keyboard.
Long before Joe Hill made his book, and then the TV show came out. Like,
I am getting just that, so I must look up
Buzz Lightyear as well, in addition to that.
Oh, he looks awesome. This is peak, like, if you're a kid and you like what a cool cartoon looks like.
Yep, me at that time. Very much so. I watched the movie again, and I thought it was all right. I'm like, oh, this is like solid for like Saturday morning. And also there was a Buzz Lightyear like shooting gallery ride, which is still at Disney, I think. Even though I wouldn't be surprised if like seasonal. There was a big animatronic Buzz where the big thing was like he's animatronic, but his screen face is like computer generated, so it's like a projection of his face. But it works. It works really well. Okay. It's a really good when it works. That's another thing. The last time it went on that thing, it didn't work very well. But yeah. So then that leads us eventually, after rumors spread of like, are you gonna do another Toy Story? What's gonna happen? Is Toy Story gonna happen? What's gonna happen? 2010 rolls along. Specifically, it's like I don't have the release date, but I think it's like June 19th.
Let's see. In the United States, what was your guess?
June 19th.
June 18th.
Ooh,
very close. Yes.
Same weekend as Jonah Hex. I remember that very distinctly because 2 cowboy movies were out that weekend, technically. The third Toy Story film comes out, directed this time by Lee Unkrich, who we kind of referenced earlier. Mm-hmm. As a guy who's been around at Pixar for a while. He edited the first Toy Story.
Yes.
And was also like the editor on the second movie, but also a co-director. Which is a weird thing where, like, if you don't know, co-director in an animated movie means essentially like another hand of the main director. Just going out there like, hey, you help with this particular section, particularly for like an animated movie like this in Pixar. So he was doing that, and then he kind of rose up the ranks, was involved in the story departments, became the director here. Credited main writer is Michael Arndt, who's a weird screenwriter. Like, people often talk about his weird sort of career, right, where he writes Little Miss Sunshine, I believe gets nominated for, wins Best Original Screenplay for Little Miss Sunshine. Then Toy Story 3, the Tom Cruise movie Oblivion, The Hunger Games Catching Fire, A Walk in the Woods, which I believe is that. Yes, this is the Nick Nolte, Robert Redford buddy movie where they're loving. Movie that exists, apparently. I haven't seen it. Then Star Wars The Force Awakens.
Yep.
And then nothing for a long time until now, that new Hunger Games prequel, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes.
Wow.
Weird career.
Very weird career. I would say, by the way, the best Hunger Games movie, right? That's the second one.
Catching Fire, I would argue yes. So that makes me actually a bit more potentially excited for Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I don't have a lot of excitement, but it's a bit.
No, although I will say Francis Lawrence is a good director. So, I mean,
I don't know if I agree with that. Constantine's fine. I Am Legend's fine. I never saw Water for Elephants. I think Catching Fire is really good. I hate both the Mockingjays, particularly the second one.
Yeah, I think those are bad.
Never saw Red Sparrow. Never saw
Red Sparrow. This is my take right now. Exclusive for the Patreon. Red Sparrow fucking rules. That's a great movie.
Oh,
I
interesting.
really like that movie.
Okay, interesting. But anyway, we're going off the beaten path to Toy Story 3. Don't worry, this show isn't very long already. But so Toy Story 3. We should note, I think a lot of people may say that, like, Toy Story 3 ended up being the best one. There's a lot of people who would have that take. It was a very celebrated movie when it came out. Yep. Made over $1 billion, the first animated movie to do so on a $200 million budget. And a lot of people truly love it. It was nominated. This is a key thing. It won Best Animated Feature. Obviously, this is the first one where a Toy Story movie can win, beating How to Train Your Dragon and The Illusionist. And it also won Best Original Song, which we'll get into that, I guess, in a bit. But that's our recurring gag, is Best Original Song for these movies. But yeah, and it was nominated for Best Picture, which is only the third animated film to do so after Beauty and the Beast and Up, and the last one as of yet. Brian, what's your sort of history with when you saw this originally, and how do you feel about it now?
Yeah, I remember I would have been around 12 when this movie came out. Yeah. So I remember being excited for it, and I remember I didn't go to see it in theaters, and I don't know why.
You're the one person on the planet who didn't, I assume.
I really am, yeah. And like I remember seeing it when it came to DVD. I think getting it from the library. I feel like that sentiment of 3 being the best movie certainly was there at the time. I remember people I remember if you said you didn't like Toy Story 3, you would be like dragged into the street and
found
shot.
Dead in the ditch.
Like, yeah.
And I'll also say, from my perspective as well, this is the summer of my junior year of high school. Okay. So I'm not too far from Andy in age.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And obviously that kind of had a lot of sort of the emotional palpability. I remember I saw this with my dad, visiting with him, and just like, oh, hey, they're having a midnight premiere of Toy Story, because it was like the 17th, I guess, of June.
Right.
And it's like they're having back when they had just midnight screenings, because that's the earliest you could do it.
God.
Not Thursday at 8 o'clock. And I remember I was just like, you want to do that? He's like, you know what, fuck it, let's do that. And we both really were like emotionally overcome by it. We really loved it. I grew up with the Toy Story movies. He loved them as well. Through my eyes, it was definitely like a great father-son kind of bonding moment. As time has gone on, my opinion may have changed. Did yours, Brian?
It has. It has, yeah. I remember because, like, and, like, I don't want to say that it was all just, like, nostalgia and that, like, people just kind of, like, thought it was the best movie, because it, I think, does a really good job at wrapping up the story. But my opinion on this movie now is that I think it's a very good movie. And I think it is a very fun Toy Story movie. I think it's a very good Pixar movie from a time when I think, like, things are taking a turn, I think, at this point in Pixar's history.
Cars 2 is the next year.
Cars 2
is like the sort of last gasp of, like, spotless record, basically.
Yes, Cars 2, truly one of the worst movies I've ever seen. Probably.
Pretty bad.
Probably. Yeah. Like, I rewatched it last year, and it is awful. But it's I have issues with this movie. But even then, like, I think it's very fun. I love it's a really interesting setup for this movie of, like, having all these characters at this, like, daycare and having these evil toys, like, that control the daycare. It's a very weird plot for this movie and a very weird, like, way to wrap it up. But I guess, it just kind of, like, my thoughts have settled a bit. But, yeah, I'm curious about you. How do you feel about this movie?
Well, I would say now, my big thing about Toy Story 3 is the first 2 movies, at the same time that they are, like, very, they have emotional resonance, particularly too, as we mentioned. Mm-hmm. We also talked a lot about how funny those movies were. They're very funny, heartfelt movies that, like, do a lot of great character work. And I think my biggest trouble with Toy Story 3 is the character work feels very inconsistent. I think it's, Woody's very consistent as a character, and I think he still, like, plots along very well throughout this. But I feel like a lot of the other side characters are starting to kind of suffer from what back when I visited TV tropes a lot as a teenager, what they would call the flanderization of certain characters, where, like, they kind of become a bit more saturated and a bit more, like, broad instead of actually having their finer features. And I think that happens a lot with particularly a lot of the side characters in this movie. I think, Buzz Lightyear, I think, Tim Allen still delivers a fun performance. I think particularly when he gets reset initially and he has, like, the original Buzz thing and he starts, like, for referencing certain characters, like, just as a temptress. Like, that's a fun bit.
Yeah, it's
There's fun lines throughout, but Spanish Buzz just isn't that funny to me. anymore. I remember finding it very funny the first time.
Yeah.
And now it's not like an offensive thing or whatever. I'm not saying that.
No.
It's just like it's a one-note fucking joke, and it's not like, because in the earlier movies when he gets reset or whatever, where we encounter the the earlier Buzz, and then later on when the Buzz clone comes up, there's a fun dynamic there. There's an elevation of the original joke, and the elevation here is just like he's Spanish and he's more romantic with Jessie.
He's like
that's
Fabio.
a great way to use Jessie, right? That's a great way to use Jessie. It's just like she wants to fuck Spanish Buzz. That's her thing. Isn't that fun?
Yeah.
That you have this great character and just give her that. I have such a problem with the way that 3 and to a certain extent 4 use that character.
Yeah. It feels very much like it's funny the first time, but then they really stick to the bit and they really commit to it, and it's fun. I do love that whole escape sequence, though. I think it's quite fun. It has that sort of almost like a heist movie sort of vibe to it.
But particularly Potato Head with with the tortilla thing, I think is a very funny visual bit.
Very funny.
It's very funny, and it's the most I think some of these side characters get to do, because for example, this is our first instance of somebody dying and having to replace the voice because Jim Varney died shortly after Toy Story 2. So Slinky is voiced here by Blake Clark, who you might recognize, particularly Brian, from a lot of recent Adam Sandler movies. Like, he's the coach in Grown Ups who dies.
Oh, yes.
And they all... Right.
Yes.
He's in The Water Boy. He's in a bunch of...
Yes.
Like that. But he was a friend of Jim Varney's, and Slinky's there. He's the first example, truly, of, that character I recognize is there, but he's not really doing anything. What's the most interesting thing Slinky does in this movie, Brian?
That's a great question.
Right!
Yeah.
Which is, I think, a recurring problem in 3 and 4 is just, a lot... The side characters grow too much. Yeah. There's too many of them, particularly by the, 4, where you have the new characters and Bonnie's toys and everything.
That is a huge problem I have with 4, as we'll get to, but...
Yeah.
Yeah, 3 is a weird one. I don't know, because, it is not offensive in any way. It is not offensively bad or anything. A lot of it moves.
It is good, but it's lesser. It's mid Pixar.
Yeah. Where it is still good, and I think when watched, kind of just watch Toy Story 3. It's very fun, and I think well, another problem I have is one of the endings, because of course we have the sort of fake out of them, kind of, what is this? It's like a incinerator, I guess.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're jumping way ahead, yes, but the incinerator thing happens, and then it goes incinerator, them accepting death.
Yep.
The claw, then they get back to Andy's house, and he's just like, oh, there's a note here, I should leave this over at Bonnie's address. Him giving the toys to Bonnie, and then him playing with Bonnie and the toys.
Yeah. And so I think that them accepting death, them maybe dying, is a bit manipulative, I think. It's kind of that Pixar thing. I know.
Are you saying, especially after this whole movie, where instead of having our fun characters be kind of fun for most of the runtime, they're kind of just wallowing and sad and just like, oh man, Andy doesn't want to play with this anymore. It's making you feel fucking guilty. I think that's the thing, as someone who grew up alongside the Toy Story movies, going back to it. It just feels like, dude, I love these movies, but I fucking grew up. I'm not gonna play with these fucking toys all the time. And it feels like this weird kind of almost infantilization that John Lasseter is still involved with the movies at this time. A guy who, his public image was just I play with toys still. And I have, my kids want to play with the toys and packages, but I don't want it. That kind of that bit where look, I'm not gonna front. I have a couple toys on this desk. Here's Swedish Chef. Holding an axe and stuff like that. I have a couple desk toys, and I've been gifted pop vinyls. I want to emphasize, I've been gifted pop vinyls. Never bought one of my own, except for, admittingly, the Little Shop of Horrors one I have.
Admittedly, he is showing me right now, and it is, I have to admit, very cool.
Right. That's the only cool one. of the 10,000 million fucking bullshit figures they do. That's the cool one. And yeah, and it's just like, it has this kind of thing of like making you feel guilty as someone who was like, who grew up and didn't like watch Toy Story over and over again after you hit like, I don't know, 13. And still like those movies, but didn't, and still go to Pixar movies.
Yeah.
I went to Pixar movies all the time still. But it definitely feels like this weird kind of thing. At the same time, the animation, we should mention, has increased so much.
Yeah.
Like, I love the opening bit of this movie.
Oh, yeah.
With just, like, that version of, like, Andy's playtime is, like, such a funny visual and so well animated. And then, you know, like them kind of getting you back to, like, remember when you could play with these guys and it'd be fun? And then right after that, it's just like, they're a fucking box in your room. You don't touch them. What a fucking piece of shit you are. It feels weirdly hostile. Despite the fact that I like this movie, I should mention, but I don't know. Maybe hit a bit too personally in a different way. Yeah.
Yeah, and it all is weird because this was, I think, marketed kind of as like, well, the audience that saw these movies as kids has now grown up, and this is who this movie's for. And yeah, and at the same time, I think, like, to get into a bit of like Lotso Bear as the villain, it is that
Voiced
sort of
by the late great Ned Beatty.
Yeah, oh my god, absolutely. Love you, Ned Beatty. But like, it is that sort of like villain twist, right? I wouldn't say it's in the third act in this movie. It's kind of like,
no, it's like kind of like midpoint.
Yeah, midpoint.
Of the movie, really, like the midpoint turn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and like, I don't know how I feel about it, to be honest. I think it's fine. I think he's a fine villain. His origin is like, it's a bit generic for like, yeah, toy. He don't want to be
it's
played
literally
with,
Jesse and Stinky Pete mashed together into one character.
It is like, yeah, it's Jesse, but if he was like evil instead of like
right,
just
Stinky Pete.
getting
Stinky Pete had the
basically
Jesse origin story, but with the additional twist, I do like the reveal of him looking and seeing she bought another one.
Yes,
I like, because that's something we just haven't really seen in one of these movies before, and the specific and mainly with that backstory, I do love it's delivered by the clown, who's voiced by Bud Lucky, legendary animator at Pixar, who worked on like a lot, like you can see a lot of his early animations on 70s era Sesame Street. That's how long that dude's been in animation.
Hell yeah.
But like a really funny. I like also like all the toys in Bonnie's room. I think are fun.
Yeah.
In this one. Where you got, you know, Kristen Shaw as a Triceratops, who's funny, like their whole improv bit, but like, and Timothy Dalton is Prickle Pants. That's fun. Are you classically trained and stuff like that? He's very funny. Jeff Garland's also there as a unicorn, but we don't have to talk.
We don't have to talk about Jeff Garland.
But Bonnie Hunt as Dolly,
she's great.
She's fun.
Yeah.
You know, they're a fun bunch.
Yeah.
But yeah, then you know we have at the same time like all the stuff in the daycare center, and I think with that also, there's a lot of, I think, mixed feelings I have about the new characters we get there. Like Ken, of course.
Not Ryan
pops
Gosling.
up Michael Keaton. Right, Michael Keaton, who did not have a cameo. Neither did, admittingly, Tour Guide Barbie in the new Barbie movie for probably legal reasons. They couldn't use those particular versions. But, I don't know, I remember Ken being so funny when I first saw this movie. And thinking he was, like the funniest new character, and I loved, you know, like, Michael Keaton's back, and all this stuff. It was a solid turn. Now I think the vocal performance is fun, and there are fun bits to that character, but they lean a lot on like, oh man, isn't it weird that Ken's effeminate?
Yeah, they do. They do, don't they? It's very weird, and I don't love it.
Particularly the bit during the credits where like they have like, oh, a note from Barbie, and it's like, Buzz, Barbie didn't write that, it was Ken, and they're all like, ugh. I'm like, that's
yeah.
That feels weird. Like that joke, and then also, of course, I mentioned earlier the piss and shit jokes that are in this, particularly the whole like, oh, I just got a bunch of Lincoln logs put in me, like those weren't Lincoln logs, or watch out for puddles in the bathroom. God, there's a lot of.
I remember hearing that Lincoln log joke. I think during like the commercials for this movie when it was coming out, it was like all over them, and it was like the big like boom like laugh moment. Yeah.
I think that's the biggest problem. This movie's just not that funny. Like, when it does have jokes, some of them work, but largely, it feels a lot more like bad jokes, good jokes, saccharine, serene moment that feels a bit manipulative. It kind of feels like it's that structure. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
And I mean, like, I will say, like, I think the ending of, like, Andy giving the toys to Bonnie and them having this incredibly beautiful, like, sweet, tender moment is a beautiful ending to this movie.
Oh.
Like, no. Oh, wow.
Oh. Okay, wait. Here's the thing. I have a nuanced perspective on this.
Okay.
I think, so after, like, the whole accepting fate thing, which is wonderfully animated, by the way. I think that's the biggest thing. Like, great character animation when they're like,
Yes.
whereas, like, what did we do? And then it's silently they hold hands or whatever. It's a very well animated sequence. No denying that. Very effective. But I think with, when Andy finally, like, tries to leave the toys, I think him introducing the toys to Bonnie is beautiful. I think that's such a wonderful little bit where these toys get to, like, be held by Andy, and he just tells them, like, here's this guy, here's why I love him, here's Jessie, here's why I love her, and why you'll love them as well. Passing the torch, literally. It's a beautiful little moment. And then I really like the bit when, Bonnie is at the stairs and Andy's leaving, and then he looks over and he sees her like, bye, and then has Woody wave. That's beautiful. That's a genuinely really effective, powerful little moment. The middle bit where the 17-year-old's playing with this kid he doesn't know is weird. I find it very weird. Just on, like, not even a creepy level, but just on a, like, you don't know this child, and why are you playing with her for, it seems like, at least an hour. Like, the sun starts setting a bit.
I mean,
during that last shot, it's kind of weird.
I see what I know. I get what you mean.
Yeah.
I just,
if we even established, like, he babysat her or something, that'd be enough. Just like they have a history, they have some kind of, like, kinship. As opposed to just like, you're the daughter of a friend of my mom's.
Yeah, no, I see what you mean. I don't know. I don't know. That moment does get me though. In its even though part of me does acknowledge, like, I'm like, wait, what the fuck? But it's so, I don't know. I find it so, like, I don't know. I find it so impactful.
Okay. I did the first time. It hasn't aged well to me, in my opinion, but whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. I like that moment, and I think it's a very fitting end to this trilogy. But then they made another one.
Well, hold on.
Yeah.
We should establish, like, some other things we haven't talked about with Toy Story 3. I mean, from that opening bit, and then like the whole trash sequence, I think, is really well animated. Like, where they get thrown in the trash and then they, like, try and get out, and they have to, like, pinpoint on Rex. I think it's very fun. But I want to say some good things, because I feel like I've been shitting on this movie a lot. I don't hate it. I just have problems. But that bit's great. I like the sort of system we get about sort of, like, the prison setup at the daycare with, like, Ken and the various different other weird toys. The weirdest one is the octopus, voiced by Whoopi Goldberg, and she has maybe, like, 3 lines in this movie.
Yeah, I did not remember that she was even in this movie.
Yeah, no.
Weird.
But, like, the whole thing where, like, they're playing the, like, sort of blackjack thing, but with the, like, that cow goes moo, like, animal toy thing is very funny. Or even the basic setup of, like, oh, the toys are stuck in, like, the younger toddler side of daycare, and they get, like, thrown around. That's a fun sequence. And, like, the prison break thing, like you mentioned, I think is, like, the best sort of utilization of, like, all these characters at one time. I think it feels like this is the point where, like, all right, we're cooking with gas. Particularly, like, the monkey. The monkey's really funny.
Yes.
I love that whole, like, he's creepy, but he really works, especially, like, Woody and him tackling. A lot of fun stuff there, but yeah. But what about anything else?
Well, I like the bug guy, the green, like, bug guy who was, like, with them. I love him. He's great.
The strong Miss Potato, just like, oh, so strong.
Yeah.
Yeah, with his muscles.
Yeah, I don't know. My take on this movie, I think, is I think it's good and it's very fun. Yeah, but it does feel a bit lesser than certainly the first 2. But I think it's very fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, my shout out, my favorite sort of henchman for Lotso was actually Big Baby. I think Big Baby's a very, like,
it's pretty good,
funny thing where it's, like, the perfect, like, basic design, the one eye drooping, and it doesn't say anything, but, like, turns his head around, and that's his mama, and all other stuff. Like, that's fun. Yeah, there's fun bits in there. Well, you know what? Let me go ahead and do, before we close out in Toy Story 3, we gotta play our game.
Yes. Oh, boy.
This movie was not only nominated, this was the first Toy Story movie to win an Oscar for Best Original Song for We Belong Together, the Randy Newman song that plays near the end, which, you know, is a fun Randy Newman song. Yeah. It's fine.
Yeah.
Right, that's what it is. But it's
competition is this is weird. If I Rise from 127 Hours, written by A.R. Rahman.
Okay.
Tangled, I See the Light from Alan Menken and Glenn. I think that's solid.
Which ones I see the
Song.
light?
That's the one where like all the like they're putting up the lanterns that glow, and it's fucking Mandy Moore and
Yeah.
Levi,
I don't.
on the boat.
I wouldn't say that's my favorite song from that movie, but fair.
No, but I think a fair, yeah, like
Yeah.
of the Disney sort of ballad
Yeah.
variety. And this is the weird one. Coming Home from Country Strong, the Gwyneth Paltrow movie
What was that?
that came out in like January of 2010. That's the weird thing. Just it popped up just for this song nomination, which I've never seen it, but I know it's just like she plays like a country
Oh,
singer.
I've heard of this
And
movie.
Tim McGraw's in it, and Garrett Hedlund. Yeah,
Oh. Oh no. Yeah, this looks bad.
I'm sorry. It had an Oscar qualifying run in 2010 in November, but it came out in the U.S. on January 7th, 2011.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And from what I've heard, it feels like a January movie in every definition. That somehow got an Oscar nomination. But yeah, these are weird. Like, and 2019 for like Toy Story 4 is also weird. I can't wait to get to that. That's crazy.
Best song is always the weirdest category at the Oscars, I feel like.
100%. Just movies that don't deserve to get nominations at all being nominated. But yeah, so Toy Story 3 came out. We both, we've talked enough about toys and alienated all our patrons.
Yeah. It's good. It's good.
It's good. We like it.
Yeah.
We do like it. There's a lot we both like, but I would say this is the least of the Toy Stories for me. Oh, I think we're gonna have a fight with 4. This will be interesting.
Four is interesting.
Okay. Well, before we get to that, just briefly, this one has the most sort of like miscellanea attached to it,
I
where
remember that.
in sort of the break between Toy Story 3 and 4, there were multiple shorts and specials, which were notable for getting like Tom Hanks, Tim Allen, Joan Cusack to like return. That was like part of the contract. And this includes Hawaiian Vacation, which involves Ken and Barbie going on a Hawaiian vacation in the middle of winter, which is fine. It's an all right tour. Have you seen any of these before I even continue?
I can't remember. I feel like you're gonna mention one, and I'm gonna be like, I saw that
Right.
one on the DVD.
Right. The next one from 2011, Small Fry,
Nope.
which, by the way, these were screened theatrically because Hawaiian Vacation was apparently in theaters with Cars 2, which I didn't see in a theater. Then Small Fry was in front of The Muppets,
Okay.
the Jason Segel movie, which I think that one's my favorite of these. Bonnie goes to Burger King, the Burger King type fast food restaurant, and Buzz gets left behind, but replaced with like a little like Happy Meal version of Buzz, who like follows him, who's like very small. And meanwhile, he gets stuck with like all the recalled toys, which are fun ones. Like particularly, there's the one that's like the Vampire Express, which is like a vampire in a little train. And they have, and the whole gimmick is that they have like the support group thing for like abandoned Happy Meal
that's
toys.
funny. That's very.
It's
funny.
very cute.
Yeah.
Actually, directed, I believe, if I'm right, by the guy who directs Lightyear later. Which is weird because I think that short's great. Angus McLean is his name, who recently lost his job in the Pixar layoffs. I
Oh
found
no,
out
that sucks.
in research for this. Yeah, that's a bummer. That was a funny short, and I thought you could do like more interesting things after that. And then Partysaurus Rex, which is about Rex is pulled to the bathtub by Bonnie. He meets all the bathtub toys, which is a funny bit just in terms of like, it's like Rex basically being acquainted with like, there's a little like rubber ducky and like a captain who's in a ship. And then he becomes like the weird party animal of that group because he brings over like a big disco ball light thing that was in Bonnie's room. And they all like rave to it. It's kind of fun. And Wallace Shawn, of course, the ultimate party animal, as we're fully aware.
Hell yeah.
Yes, fuck yeah. And then there's the 2 specials, which aired on ABC, which were Toy Story of Terror and Toy Story That Time Forgot. Which the Toy Story of Terror is a Halloween special about Combat Carl, who we see in 4, played by Carl Weathers, by the way.
Hell yes.
We see sort of like the upscaled version that's like in sync with like Jesse and all them, who, big point, this is the one time after Toy Story 2 where they knew how to do something with Jesse, because they get lost at a hotel, and they're in the lost and found of the hotel that like Bonnie and her family went to, and the Combat Carl is just like, you know what, I deal with being in a box all the time. You gotta just breathe, and you can get through it. And it's a very sweet, like, connection point. I think it's genuinely a really great sort of use of Jessie in that particular thing. And it's a fun special. And then Toy Story That Time Forgot's a Christmas special, where the toys visit with, like, Bonnie's friend, who just got a huge set of these action figures that are, like, themed after dinosaurs. So they're, like, dinosaur men who have, like, human, like, arms and legs, but, like, T-Rex faces and stuff. Damian Lewis plays the main one of those, which is fun. That's a fun one, too. But, yeah, I think these are easily the best sort of secondary Toy Story things, particularly, like I said, Small Fry and Toy Story of Terror. Yeah, I think are ones I would genuinely recommend you take up on Disney+.
Toy Story of Terror, I think I saw, like, part of it, maybe. But that one seems like a one that I would probably watch.
Yes, for sure. But all right, let's get to, in that sort of time, these are the only times we got to see these characters, in that interval. And it's like, well, it seems like Toy Story's done, but they might do some of these shorts. I wouldn't be against that. Then 2019, June 21st, 2019, Toy Story 4 hits theaters. As directed this time by Josh Cooley, who's a guy who was involved in the various, Pixar things and stuff, like an animator that rose up to the ranks. And Andrew Stanton and Stephen Folsom are credited as writers, though this is a movie that went through a lot of different productions because, legally credited as John Lasseter, who famously announced Toy Story 4 as a rom-com about Bo Peep and Woody, who Bo Peep didn't appear in Toy Story 3. It's implied that they were separated at some point. And then Rashida Jones, I believe, and her writing partner, who I forgot his name, were like originally slated to write that movie, and then they left due to, they said, conflicts with Pixar. And then shortly after that, John Lasseter is not at Pixar anymore.
Yes. I remember when that happened, because I remember, like, it being announced that Rashida Jones was going to write Toy Story 4, and I was like, oh, I like her. And then it was announced that she had left because of, we found out why. And
well, conflict's an issue with. But to be fair, I should say Rashida has said like she didn't get like hugged.
Yes. No. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It was just like creative conflicts. Because to be fair, in this interim, there's also the whole Brenda Chapman Brave thing, which was another creative sort of snafu that happened with a woman at Pixar. I wonder, this boys club.
I do remember. Yeah, I think I might be remembering this wrong, but I remember Rashida Jones coming out and being like and talking a bit about that the boys club thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is all like right before Coco comes out. It's like 2017.
Yeah.
So then this movie's sort of restructured after that point. And yeah, so now there's tension in the room. So I'm curious. So how did you feel about, Toy Story 4 when it was coming out, and sort of the big, like, everyone was kind of like, after Toy Story 3, how can you continue after that point? And how did you feel then and now about Toy Story 4?
Yeah. I was kind of excited for it.
Yeah.
Because I think, I don't know, I was a bit optimistic, and I really liked Toy Story 4 when I saw it in theaters for the first time.
Yeah.
And it was not one I had rewatched. I have rewatched 1, 2, and 3 previously, but I didn't rewatch 4. I have only seen it once up until today. And I like it. I think it's a good movie. I would say it is my quote unquote like least favorite Toy Story movie. It's certainly the one I have the most problems with, but I think it's a good movie. I just think obviously it's nowhere near as good as the first two, but I think there's a lot of elements I like in this movie. I just don't think they come together in a great way. I think it's a lot
You're
of
saying they don't belong together, like as Randy Newman sang for the previous film.
yeah, a little bit. Like a lot of disparate elements that I like on their own, but when they come together in this movie, I don't know. They don't fit together for me. But I'm very curious because you're more optimistic on this movie than I am. So like, yeah, how do you feel about Toy Story 4? And kind of how do you feel going into it the first time?
Well, yeah, going into it, obviously, I was still in that kind of phase of like, I love Toy Story 3. I can't believe when they announced it. I did rewatch them prior, and I will say I think that was my first time rewatching Toy Story and being like, this isn't as good as I remembered. I sort of had a dampering there. And then I felt this when I first watched Toy Story 4, and I've done it ever since. I've watched it a couple times since I have it, along with the other 3 on Blu-ray. I think it's easily the third best of the franchise, which is to say, I think it's pretty great. Quite frankly, I think it does a better job of doing a lot of the things in Toy Story 3, with like sort of some of the finality elements of the character. I think particularly, like I mentioned, Woody, I think has such an impressive like sort of realization of his arc, where like in the earlier 3 movies, Woody was so driven by, I have to make sure Andy's okay. I have to make sure Andy, like, I gotta be there for him all the time. I'm like a third parent to him, basically. I guess, well, second parent, a father figure, because Andy's dad went up the stairs and never came back, I guess. I don't know. He's been so hell-bent on, like, I have to protect my boy Andy, who I just, like, love so dearly. And by the 3rd movie, he accepts, like, okay, I'm not going to be with Andy anymore. And now I'm with Bonnie. And everything's going to be heavenly. Like, the ending of Toy Story 3 is literally just, like, him going to his heaven of Bonnie's room. And then the 4th movie opens with, like, Bonnie doesn't really give a shit about Woody anymore. That kind of happened, you know, I mean, to some extent with Andy. I don't know. He's probably being a fucking creep at college about how much he loves Woody. Wanted to bring him to college, what's he going to do with him? But anyway, he's with Bonnie, and Bonnie just got over him faster than Andy did. And I think they do a really great job of just recognizing that he keeps trying to protect, like, gotta protect Bonnie. Bonnie is the key to all of this. Barbie. Hi, Barbie. Hi, Bonnie. Also, you know, I didn't mention this. Bonnie's fun. I like her in 3. She's very cute.
Yeah.
Sort of like a traditional kind of kid. And even in 4, like, her whole kindergarten thing, I think is really well done.
Yeah, I really like her in 4. I think she's a great sort of, like, you know, the kid, right, who owns these toys, right, like the character. I think,
right.
Yeah, she's great.
She's really fun. But yeah, so Andy is no longer in Woody's life, and he's trying to make Bonnie his sort of new Andy. And then just the whole journey that he ends up going on with, like, trying to save Forky and, like, save him from being trash. And then, which I think is a funny bit. I wish it didn't end so soon. That's a big problem with this movie, I think, is Forky's arc ends at, like, the end of the 1st act. And he's, like, there for the rest of the movie. He's still funny, but he's kind of just there in the background. Like a lot of characters in this movie. Yeah, sort of Woody's sort of journey of realizing, like, wait, I don't have to just, like, help out a kid. I can help out, like, a bunch of kids and also help out toys at the same time. Finding a new sort of lease on life, becoming kind of like in his weird sort of like post-retirement age, I sort of interpret this movie as.
Yeah.
Because in the first, like, 3 movies, it's him kind of like growing as a parent, quote unquote, alongside Andy. And, you know, like, trying to help him out, realizing it's going to not last that long, saying goodbye to him as he goes off to be an adult. And then him being like, now in Toy Story, like, fuck, what do I do? And he ends up, like, finding an interesting different purpose. And I think the scene where he separates from Buzz and all the other characters, I find so much more emotionally investing than a lot of the ending of 3. That's my hottest take, I think. Is I think that moment genuinely, I think, works with, like, no notes. I'm going to say no notes on that. You probably have notes. I'm very curious how you feel about that. Like, Woody's arc in the movie. How do you feel about that?
Look, I understand his arc, like, on paper, as you've described it. Right. I'm like, yes, makes sense. Perfect. Right. I get it. But I don't know. It is like, because I think the way that this movie does sideline most of the supporting cast that we know and love, and doesn't give them a lot to do. And that's a big problem I have with the movie. Yeah. Not just with Buzz, but with, like, obviously Rex and Slinky and everyone. Like, they just hang out in that RV for the whole movie. And that's kind of...
I mean, some of them have to do that, because, like, Mr. Potato Head, obviously, like, Don Rickles, another person died.
Yeah.
And they could only use, like, archival things. But I do agree with that at the same time. I almost wish they just said, like, Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head aren't here anymore.
Yeah.
They, like, got donated. They were, like, the first examples of, like, toys that kind of got swept away. Even, I don't want to get food out of Blake Clark's mouth, but even Slinky, I think, could have also gone a similar way. I think if you had paired, and I love those characters, but pairing them down, I think, would make some of this feel a bit more emotionally resolved, especially for, like, Woody having to realize, like, oh, Bonnie might get tired of me, like these other toys. They have a version of that with, like, the other, like the baby toys, which is fun.
I like those, yeah.
Especially considering you know who the voices are, right?
No, I don't actually. Who are the
Oh, it's a
voices?
lot of famous comedians. It's Betty White,
Okay, right.
Carol Burnett, Carl Reiner, and Mel Brooks. As all the like, I think, and they have fun names like it's Melephant Brooks, I think is the name of the elephant,
Fun.
and Carl Rhinoceros, Cheryl Burnett, and I forgot what Betty White is.
I can look at it right here. Bitey White.
Bitey White, yes, that's fun.
It's very
But
fun.
it's not at the same time. I think it would be more impactful if like some of these other characters got depleted because it seems like they don't know what to do with them.
Yeah.
So it's like I don't know why you need all, and even also like the Bonnie's toys, like Trixie, I think is still fun. The Triceratops, but Rex doesn't get a lot to do. He's just like, oh, I'm Wallace Shawn. I'm getting another check for this movie. Yeah, and even Jessie, where like she is in theory supposed to be like the sort of new sheriff. They established that early on in the movie, and the best moments with like Jessie and Buzz, I think, are them trying to help out Woody, because it feels like they're still invested in like, you know what, we got to help out Woody. He's in a rough place. He's our buddy.
Yeah.
We got to help him out. He helped us out. We got to help him out. And I think that sort of recurring thing, even with like the voice thing, I think is funny. It's not great. It's not. I think it's better than Spanish Buzz, I'll say, because at least there's like more fun consistent bits. Even like him with Ducky and Bunny of like the new characters, I think they're a lot of fun. And I think
They're
they
pretty
have like
fun.
a lot of
Yeah.
back and forth, particularly the whole like thing with the key, where it's like they have the various scenarios with like the ball, and then
Plush Rush.
the Plush Rush is so good. It's really fun. But and even like Bo Peep, how she realized. I'm curious about that. How do you feel about sort of like Woody encountering like Bo Peep and some of these other like sort of side people in the antique store, and Gabby, some of these new people?
Yeah. Them bringing Bo Peep back is a choice.
Yes.
It feels like her character is written into that very sort of like that very Disney version of like strong female characters who have that very sort of like, go lucky, yeah, everything, I'm doing this kind of attitude, which is just not my preference. It's just like, I don't think it's the best version of that character, but I like the sort of like arc that she goes on of like, how different she is when Woody meets her, and how she has that sort of like almost like nomad, toy nomad type of like thing. It's interesting, and I love her like the animation in this movie is like from a technical level
spectacular,
unbelievable.
Right.
But yeah, I like a lot of her character in theory, but I don't like a lot of this movie. But in actuality, I think it's a bit lesser for me personally.
I mean, even as someone who loves Toy Story 1 and 2, I think we can both easily say that, like, Bo Peep isn't an extremely well-developed character in those movies.
No.
She's a fun side person. Like, I love hearing Annie Potts, great actress. And her coming back, I think, really works, particularly where, like, I like the contrast where, like, earlier we just saw, like, she flirts with Woody a lot. There's a lot of that back and forth, which they don't go to, like, full rom-com here, which, for the record, I think would be weird.
Oh, absolutely.
If they just went full-on, like, rom-com. There's hints of like they want to be together, but there's like an additional reasoning of like the way that she's become a totally different toy, and how she's, despite being porcelain, that she's able to like kind of keep doing this. Where I think that kind of archetype you're talking about, like, we're behind a paywall and I don't want to like go into it too deeply, but this is the same year as Captain Marvel, which I would argue is so much more egregiously the version of this thing you're talking about. Despite how much I like Brie Larson in theory, in practice,
yeah,
she is not quite delineated as much, which is a bummer. But I think, like, Bo Peep has a lot more, not to use this as a pun, like fragility as a character, which I like, because she still has, at the same time that she's like tough. There's that whole sequence where Woody talks about like, oh yeah, she was Molly's like nightlight, and she was like so great, and she loved it. And the reactions on Bo Peep, where she has that weird mixture of like, I do kind of miss that time, but thinking back on that time is painful.
I'm a different person now.
There's nuances to it. Yeah. I think that's the thing, is like any of these characters, I think, still have nuances. Like even, like she relates to like a Forky, I think, in a similar way, where it's like someone has a certain perspective on like what their purpose is, and then realizes like, no, I don't have to be that. I can be a toy for Forky, or in the case of Bo Peep, like I can be a toy that helps out other toys, which I think is like, that's the nobler thing. Like if she was just like, I'm a badass loner
who has no connection with anybody. Like, I think that's more the danger, as opposed to, like, she has her friends, like the little Polly Pocket cop, A-Cab, little Polly Pocket cop.
Yeah,
I would say.
There's the scene where she's like, "You're a cop too," and I was like, ugh.
You're a sheriff, right? You didn't tell me he was a cop. Like, oh, A-Cab, get rid of this. But like Combat Carl, who she's friends with like all the various sand toys that are in that little town square, or the Billy, Goat, and Gruff for sheep, who I think are like very fun. And Willie doesn't remember their names, which is
Yeah, he's
funny.
like Joe, Bill, whatever.
Right. At the same time, though, like that also introduces us to like the antique store, which I like as an environment, and I like a lot of the characters we do meet in there. Like, I mean, fucking Duke Kaboom, dude.
Duke Kaboom.
Probably, I would say my favorite of the characters introduced in either Toy Story 4 or 3, I would say is Duke Kaboom. I think it's like such a funny voice, such a great animation style, such a great sort of like little tragic backstory that's still very funny about like Rajan. This
one's for you, Rajan.
His fucking right, his kid who opened up on Christmas and he didn't perform like the commercial, and Keanu's delivering just like, it's just a commercial. I couldn't control it. It's so funny. It's such a good bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's Keanu Reeves. Like, you know, he's just the best. Like, he rules. He's just, yeah. I think I would agree with you though. He is so fun, and just like the way that like later on they sort of trick him into doing the stunts where they're like, "You're Duke Kaboom, come on." And he's like, "Well, that was 4 feet. This one's 40." He's like, "Well, Duke Kaboom would never repeat a stunt." It's great.
And then, like, when he first tries to do it and, like, Rajan's face shows up in the clouds, he's like, "I'm sorry, Rajan, I can't do it." And then Woody, like, barely gets it.
That's some of the stuff that really got me. Like,
yes.
I think, but this is the thing I'm talking, where, like, you were talking about how Toy Story 3 isn't really funny. This movie's very funny, I think.
Yes.
And so my problems don't come with that. I think that stuff is great. I do love the Ducky and what's the other one? Is he just called Bear?
Bunny. Ducky and Bunny.
Ducky and Bunny. I love, yeah, just all of their stuff is so great. I love the little line where he's like, "Oh, so that's what gravity feels like," because they've been stuck up there. It's great, yeah. A lot of that stuff lands for me though with this movie, like the comedy. But again, it is the thing where I like all these elements. I like Forky. He's great. I relate to him because I'm also trash. I get it.
Tony Hale, amazing vocal performance.
Really great.
But so why do you think it doesn't coalesce for you? What do you think is the key factor that makes it not gel?
I don't know. I think it is just the fact that, like, I'm not trying to compare it to the early Pixar or to 1 and 2, but I think the way that those movies, everything like just gels so smoothly. And this, I think it's like, oh, I like Forky, I like that part, and then when we get to like, we move over to like the Bo Peep part, they feel very disparate, and yeah, I don't know, it just doesn't.
Do you think maybe it's Gabby, who we haven't talked about that much, is voiced by Christina Hendricks? Is she sort of a problem there for you?
A little bit. Again, she's kind of one of those things where I like her character in theory, and I like that sort of the arc that she goes on, where she is like just wants to be played with. I love the scene where she gets the voice box and gets the little girl to pick her up.
Devastating.
It is very devastating. It is, yeah. I don't know. It leaves me a bit, her kind of part, I want to like it, but it does leave me a bit cold. And I don't know why. It just doesn't work as well for me.
I think what works about her for me is that she feels kind of like the inverse of the sort of cliche we were talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Of like this person who we perceive to be a nice like side character is actually our villain, with like Stinky Pete and then Lotso. As opposed to here, we initially perceive Gabby to be this evil sort of being, because of the weird creepiness of the antique store and her ventriloquist dummies, who are both funny and very Benson, very fun. And I think that's the thing, is that like they establish initially like, oh, she's going to be our villain of the piece, and then she really isn't. And I really like that turn.
Yeah.
Because I think like doing it this way opens up just the factor of like, well, you know, we had our villainous toys who had maybe, say, very similar arcs with like Lotso.
and we've done this before, as opposed to this feels like at least a slight inversion that opens up opportunity for like some of these sequences that you're talking about, where like she tries to like put the voice box in the way that she kind of has like her point about like, look, I've never been played with, I've never had anybody find a connection for me, so I could finally have with this little girl, and then fucking destroyed.
Yeah.
Where like literally the dialogue of just like her grandma who runs the antique store just being like, oh, you can take that toy if you want to. Nobody takes the toys. You can do it. And she's like, nah. Just like it's kind of funny, but also devastating when that happens.
Yeah.
I think the sequence where she like tries to follow all of them to the carnival, and then she like looks down and sees the little girl crying, and then they bring back all the stuff from earlier, like the whole like, oh, here's the plush rush thing with like the ball, or I forgot what they call that, a winner chicken dinner or something. I think is what it is.
Yeah, you're right.
Well, they bring that back, and then they try and establish everything, and she ends up helping the little girl who feels lost and is crying, and then ends up going home with her. I think does a great job of sort of establishing why the next sequence happens, where like Woody does the unthinkable, and it's just like, I'm separating from the gang. I'm not going to be like around the gang anymore. I think that's the reason why I think that works so beautifully for me, whereas I find it good but kind of clunky in Toy Story 3, is the kind of that sort of believability thing I was talking about with like, say, Andy doing the whole like playing with the little girl versus this sort of thing. I think especially as I've gotten older, this is where the Toy Story franchise kind of like evolves with sort of the kids, I think, a bit more who grew up with it originally. I've had times where like I have to say goodbye to somebody who was like a dear friend who is just like gone in my life. Either they moved away, they died, any of these other things. And you just kind of have that like moment where you realize like, I can't be around this person who was like one of my dear friends anymore. They're not in my life as regularly. I'm still will always like love them as a friend to some degree, but I can't be around them anymore. I have to like move on with my life. And I find that to be a lot more nuanced and mature and interesting a thing over the toys you loved as a kid are gonna fucking die. I think that's a bit more nuanced to me than that thing in Toy Story 3. But do you agree? How do you feel about that sequence in particular?
So I guess part of my thing is that I wish Woody's character arc did include a lot of the other characters, because it does feel a bit disjointed when it's like he has had this whole arc over the course of this movie and has basically like a new perspective on like what it means to be a toy. This is such a silly conversation. Just thinking about it.
What are you saying? Two grown men talking about Toy Story movies for 2.5 hours doesn't feel very like serious a discussion?
No, we're serious. We're serious men.
We're big boys.
Yeah.
Big men talking about film criticism.
Yeah. Yeah, but having like this whole character arc happen separate from the friends that he is leaving, I think that's the part for me that doesn't gel entirely. I want to like it because I like the sort of the implications of it and what it means for like these characters growing up and the franchise growing up, and I want to like it, but it I don't know. And I do like this movie. It just doesn't sing like the other ones for me.
Yeah, I think the classic version of this, I think, is just, maybe this is a bit of like sort of the nostalgia bit talking, but like they really hammer it home between Buzz and Woody specifically.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And because like, Jessie, like I said, has that kind of problem. Like she's established like, you're the new sheriff. And then the biggest thing she does in the body of the movie is like, she's the one who gets the flat tire to happen.
Mm-hmm.
With the RV. She's like, I think he gets my point.
Yeah.
Fun a little bit. But yeah, and then later on, like during that sequence, he gives her the sheriff star, which they established earlier is like a cute callback. But I wish I agree that that particular element was fleshed out more. And maybe Buzz and Jessie went on sort of like adventure outside instead of just like everyone staying at the fucking home or whatever.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And maybe you would cut over, say, to like, I don't know, Rex trying to lead everybody. And
that would be so crazy. Fun.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. This is not like it's firmly third, because I think the first two movies do a much better job of it. I agree, but I still think at the same time that like how effective it is for Buzz, I think is just based in how that sort of starts, where it's like they have the awning put out right by the merry-go-round or carousel, which is a great bit with Forky. He's just like, oh, you mean a carousel? Yes, a carousel. This is also, I think, a great... We haven't talked about Hanks in a while, but I think another great sort of vocal performance for him, because it feels definitely like this is, like, what, 60-something-year-old Tom Hanks, I think, playing this version of the character, where there's, like, a bit more of, like, an elder statesman quality. He's been through so much, and then he's just finding a new lease on life. I think he portrays that beautifully. And even fucking Home Improvement himself, Tim Allen, just the way that he, like, looks at... Yeah, I can't believe it took us 2.5 hours to do that voice. But anyway,
I was holding it back, but I couldn't resist.
Right, not here. No, when I referenced Tim Allen so specifically. But his whole thing where, like, he looks over at Woody and Bo Peep having, like, a bit of a tearful thing where, like, Hank's delivery on, like, I don't... Like, he can't even express it. Like, what he's, like, the mixed emotions he's feeling. And then going over to Buzz, and Buzz saying, just, like, she'll be alright. Bonnie will be alright. I think is wonderfully handled. I think, like, just does so much to, like, firmly plant that emotional seed of just, like, Woody, just, like, that sort of conversation, like, I've had with friends at certain points about just, like, yeah, I'm trying to do the right thing, I don't know what to do, and then they're just like, do it, dude. Like, you know what to do. You know exactly how you should go from here in your life. Go ahead, get out of here. And I think that's beautifully done. I genuinely, like, I had so many more tears for that than I did rewatching Toy Story 3, like, the previous day. When I watched it earlier this afternoon. Quite frankly.
Huh.
That's my hot take.
Yeah.
I'm sticking to.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, we haven't talked about Forky that much, I feel like. I love Forky. I think he's so great. I love the section where she's building him, and you see this very, like, him literally being made, and how, like,
yeah,
it's so fun, and I just think he's so funny. Just the way he moves as well, like when Woody's dragging him, and he sort of, like, and then, like, falls. I think is so funny.
Right, yeah, the sort of the Foley on, like, his popsicle sticks on the road in particular, like when he's telling the story of the first 3 Toy Stories pretty much over that little, like, dissolve and whatnot. That's very fun.
Yeah.
I think even after, like, that sort of resolve happens, there's still fun bits with, like, him with Gabby and
That's
just
great.
being like, oh, why don't you tell me more about Woody? He's like, oh, you know, he had this kid earlier, Andy. I don't think he's gotten over him. And then later on when, like, he's brushing her hair but from the opposite side, and it's just like a flat surface.
And he's like, such pretty hair.
And the physics on even, like, the way his eye is animated, where it, like, droops and, like, the little pupil, like, falls and shit like that is so good.
Yeah, he's great. I love him. Yeah, I don't know. That's all the Forky talk I think we got.
Okay. Don't get too enthusiastic. But yeah, I guess, you know, we've been talking for so goddamn long. You know what? Let's get to this. Let's get to the Oscar talk.
Oh my god, yes.
Oscar
2019.
Sort of talk, but so 2019, it won Best Animated Feature, beating Missing Link.
A great movie.
A good movie. I think that's my least favorite of the Lycos.
Well, yeah, but it's a high bar.
No, actually, Box Trolls is, actually. I think Box Trolls is, like, fine.
I like Box Trolls.
And Missing Link is good. But it's a whole different animation studio. We'll get to that later. Then How to Train Your Dragon 3.
It's a good one.
Which is alright. The third of the How to Train Your Dragons.
Yeah, 2 is great.
2's great.
2 is really good.
And 3 is... I Lost My Body, which I don't know if you saw that, the Netflix movie. That,
I did see that, yeah.
In French,
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I liked it.
Okay. I don't know. Now I'm the hater over here, apparently. But honestly, the one that I wish would have won it over, I liked Toy Story 4 a lot, as I've profusely talked about, but Klaus all the way, baby. Klaus rules.
I have never seen Klaus.
The Christmas season's coming up, buddy.
It's been out, like, what, 3 years now, so I haven't, every Christmas, I'm like, oh, maybe I'll watch that Klaus movie that was on, like, Netflix. It looks like it could be, like, visually interesting, and I just never do, but maybe this year.
Do it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, do it up. But then, all right, song. The last time.
Oh, boy.
So 2019, Toy Story 4 was nominated for I Can't Let You Throw Yourself Away, which is admittingly, like, not a great Randy Newman song. I don't disagree that. I don't know if he deserved this nomination.
Isn't he also nominated for Marriage Story this year?
It looks like, yes, he was nominated for original score.
Okay.
For Marriage Story.
Yeah, see-
Which, for the record, Marriage Story does kind of feel like outtakes from Toy Story scores if you
little
listen to
bit.
it on its own.
It's great, but I agree.
So the other nominees for song, though, besides Randy, are Into the Unknown from Frozen 2.
Probably the best song from that movie. No, I like the ballad that the fuck is his name? Kristoff sings, where it's like the it looks like a music video when he's in the woods. You know what I'm talking about?
You're asking me to remember Frozen 2, which is very difficult.
What do you mean? You haven't seen Frozen 2 like 3 times like me? Unfortunately, I have, just through like various like people who wanted to see it in theaters and shit like
I
that.
don't know. It's a movie that exists.
Yeah.
I don't have strong feelings either way toward it, really.
No.
Then the song "Stand Up" from Harriet, the Cynthia Erivo Harriet Tubman biopic.
I did not see that movie because I heard some not great things, but
Yeah,
love Cynthia
I haven't
Erivo.
seen it either. Yeah, I like Cynthia Erivo, and it's Casey Lemons directed that one.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, I don't know, maybe at some point, but this is the weird one where it's the song "I'm Standing with You" from Breakthrough, which was like a Christian
yeah.
movie about the kid that gets like saved from being frozen in a lake or whatever.
I saw the trailer for that movie like 50 times before it came out.
Same. That played a lot. Yeah, with fucking Luke Cage himself, Mike Coulter, just showing up like, oh, Mike, oof, buddy, that's a bummer.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's an Oscar-nominated film that came out in April of 2019. Just a movie that completely stopped existing.
Yep.
But somehow got an Oscar nomination, and then the winner, which is of course parentheses "I'm Gonna Love Me Again" by Elton John for Rocket Man.
I mean,
Everyone's favorite Elton John song, which that won an Oscar.
good for Elton John. I like Rocket Man, but I don't know.
I think more good for Bernie Taupin, because Elton John already won an Oscar.
Okay.
For, like the fucking for Lion King.
All right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. Bernie. Good on you, Bernie. Though.
Yeah.
I like Rocket
Yeah.
Man. That song's a song that exists. I believe is over the credits for that movie.
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So yeah. Wrap up on the Oscar thing. Weird.
Yeah. I don't really.
Such a weird sampling of songs.
I don't know of any of those as songs, really. Like, of what I've heard.
No.
Weird.
Yeah.
Best song is always so weird.
Yes. So now we should talk about, now that we're done talking about Toy Story 4 finally, just some tidbits here. Some of the miscellanea that came out after Toy Story 4 was Lamp Life, the Disney Plus short. That's like Bo Peep and Woody talking to each other, and it's a thing that exists. Jim Hanks got to eat. He came back for that one. Then Forky Asks a Question, which is the, I believe, Emmy-winning show where Forky asks various different characters from the Toy Story franchise questions. And it's a funny bit. And, all the shorts they're like 5 minutes long. They're like not very long. It's a cute series of like little short bits. Did it actually win that Emmy? I'm trying to actually determine that because I'm a dork like that. Yes, it did win a Primetime Emmy for, what was it? It's the short What is Love, which I believe is, Bonnie's Old Toys explained to Forky the meaning of what love is, and it was also apparently the final acting role for Betty White and Carl Reiner. Because they show up in that.
Weird.
Fun times. But anyway, and then we have to at least address it here, Brian. We kind of referenced it earlier, but Lightyear comes after this in 2022.
I forgot that movie
We've both
existed.
seen Lightyear. We've referenced Lightyear. And we said we weren't going to talk about it extensively, but
yeah, well,
give me like 2 sentences on Lightyear.
Lightyear is barely a movie. It's nothing, in my opinion. Like, when we're talking about the sort of opening of Toy Story 2 with the video game, and like it opens with like that font that is like that green, like very 90s font, and I'm like, this is what Lightyear should have been. Very 90s heavy, very trashy almost.
Are you saying the movie with the premise of this is Andy's favorite movie from 1995 should feel more like a blockbuster from 1995 and less like Baby's bad Interstellar?
It is. It is just they made a boring sci-fi movie. Yeah, that's all I have to say. What about you?
I kind of I hinted at my my take on Lightyear a bit, but yeah, I think it's bad.
Yeah.
I think it's like lower tier Pixar for sure. And it definitely, like I mentioned earlier, if this has been like a fun movie where they kind of interject the Pixar themes and style within, I don't know, something that feels like Power Rangers the movie, which came out like the summer prior to Toy Story or whatever, that would be fun. That isn't what this is, and it's just like it's very much a white noise movie.
Basically.
I watched it when it came on Disney Plus while I was doing other things. And I was like, well, that's not very memorable to me at all.
I watched it in theaters, and when I left, I was like, yep, that was a movie I watched. Time to go home now.
Yep. Skipped that. Like a lot of people did in theaters, because Lightyear didn't do very well. When
Yeah.
it came out. Unlike, say, we didn't mention this, Toy Story 4 cost $200 million as well, made $1.07 billion. So,
Just printing money.
an inch above Toy Story 3.
That's weird.
But that would indicate, that like maybe Toy Story 4, despite like everyone saw it, but kind of like they didn't see it maybe multiple times in a way that would put it like to $2 billion or whatever, which is what Disney probably fucking wanted.
Yeah.
And then Lightyear, I want to look up, because Lightyear like fucking bombed so hard after, this is 2022, so this is after the 3 other, like the Disney Plus straight ones, right? Because there's COVID obviously affected fucking Onward.
Yep.
And basically made that straight, even though that was the last movie I saw in theaters before COVID.
Same.
Officially, yep, same. Right, and then Soul was straight to Disney Plus, and then Luca straight to Disney Plus, and Turning Red.
Yeah.
Really pissed off that like Turning Red, obviously, that was as a common complaint, came out on Disney Plus,
Yeah.
and not on fucking theaters. So that one was great. And even Luca, I would have wished would have been in theaters. That one was pretty good. And Soul is a movie.
I really love Soul, despite a lot of the obvious stuff in Soul.
Yeah. Okay.
Different conversation for a different day, though.
I don't know. I think we have plenty of time. I don't know. Let's have a sidebar about Soul. But anyway. So Lightyear, by the way, that one also cost $200 million to make and made $226 million.
Not great.
Which I believe is that the domestic or the worldwide?
Feels
I'm
like
trying to confirm here. Oh, okay. That's worldwide, because in domestically 118 million, and then in foreign territories 108. So yeah, that no good.
not great.
That's not.
Yeah.
No,
I mean,
I think it's like, aside from what Good Dinosaur, I think that's the second biggest bomb I think they've had.
Maybe. Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Um.
So point being, that bombs pretty terribly. In February of 2023, earlier this year, everyone's favorite CEO, Bob Iger, announced that the franchise would continue with additional films, which included a 5th one. They announced Toy Story 5 is apparently in early development. And I guess to close off this sort of big elaborate discussion we've been having for far too long, I don't want that to happen.
I don't either. I think,
No.
and look, I am sure that the good people at Pixar will come up with a pretty good enough like progression of what's happening. However, it does feel like, especially with Lightyear, that we're reaching the point of we're just not gonna let this franchise die, because that IP is just so rich and we gotta milk it for everything it's got. And certainly like an IP like this, like Toy Story, that is so nostalgia heavy. And I think like anyone around our age or younger has seen like all of them and knows them so well.
Yeah.
And like it is such a big part of like, culture. But we are getting to that point, I think, where like we are just making more because we can and they make money, and not because of any genuine ideas, which is my fear.
Quite frankly, I have desperation.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
As
It
well.
feels like a desperate move, considering like Toy Story 4 is the last one of the Pixar movies. Like you can kind of track sort of the history of Pixar as a company through these Toy Story movies, where like first one starting out barely making it happen and working, and then 2 being like, great, you did that once, let's do it again, and knocking it out of the park and establishing sort of the golden run for like another decade after that or so.
then ending that on Toy Story 3, where it's like, guess what, we're going to cap off this great period with the big success everybody loves. But that also might point to some of the problems that would happen in some of our later sequels. And then some may argue Toy Story 4 being like, oh wow, you could actually prove you could do it again after a bunch of fucking bad Pixar sequels.
Yeah.
I would make the take that I think that Toy Story 4 is easily the best of those Pixar sequels that came out in the 2010s.
I think I might agree with you.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of any other ones that I like.
Big Cars 3 head? I don't know. Maybe. Cars 3, Monsters University, Finding Dory, everyone's favorite movie that they all saw and completely forgot about.
Yeah, no, it probably is. Yeah, it is the best one.
That sort of track record. And I feel like if they do go ahead and make Toy Story 5, I could see it going one of two ways. Either it makes maybe a bit less than like Toy Story 3 and 4. So it makes like, I don't know, around $900-800 million, which anyone else would think great, but in a post, say, Batman v Superman world, where if it doesn't gross $1 billion, you're like, oh fuck me, oh god, it's all falling apart, or dare I say it, significantly less, and becomes not obviously because Lightyear, I think, will permanently be the last place in terms of like a Toy Story related movie that makes that little money. Mm-hmm. But I wouldn't be surprised if maybe it's closer to Lightyear than to Toy Story 3, I guess, in terms of that. Or even the first two movies just for inflation or whatever the fuck. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens, because I think people, who were very adamant about Toy Story 3 reluctantly sort of like, okay, let's see what Toy Story 4 is about. And I think it might be like a fool me once, even though I wouldn't say it's a fooling, but some people, a lot of people are fucking vitriolic about Toy Story 4.
I have also encountered that, yeah.
There's a lot just like, how dare you fuck up a great ending? That might also kind of be my, hey guys, leave him alone. Toy Story 4 is great. You shut up.
But even like more of like general audience kind of feeling around that movie when it came out, I remember people being like not happy with it at all. Like not obviously like there was like the nostalgia people like, you ruined my childhood. But like I think there were a lot of people who just were like, this is not a great continuation of that. And I would be very curious to see if that tracks into a 5 if they end up doing a 5, which I'm sure they will. I'm gonna just...
Is that the only other sequel? Because they stopped sequels for a bit. Like after Incredibles 2, I want to... after Toy Story 4.
Ooh, Incredibles 2 is the best sequel, though. Since you just reminded me about that one.
Sure. TLDR, I like that movie, but I think it's a big step down from the first Incredibles.
Different conversation, different day.
Different conversation. So many, like, put a pin in that. We'll get to that later.
Massive pin in that. A big red one.
I wonder if you'll have any opportunity to talk about a Disney film in the near future. Wink! Wink, wink to some of you out there maybe asking about season 3. So, yeah, Toy Story. We've talked for nearly 3 fucking hours about Toy Story. Do you have any, like, last-minute wrap-up thoughts on this whole franchise?
I love them. I mean, I will always take up an excuse to watch any of these movies. I think they're great. Like you said earlier, they're some of the only, like, movies that I watched that I have nostalgia for that I can actually watch as an adult and still kind of, like, retain a lot of that sort of childhood love and nostalgia for it. That sort of thing doesn't go away as I've gotten older with the Toy Story movies, and it has with, like, certainly other Pixar or other kind of stuff I grew up with. But yeah, I adore this franchise. I don't know, Disney, maybe just let it end would be an interesting concept. But yeah, I love them. Toy Story 2 is one of the greatest animated movies ever made. And
what's the final ranking?
Ranking from quote unquote worst to best. 3, 4, 1, 2.
You changed it a bit, didn't you, motherfucker?
I did.
You were saying 4 was yeah.
I'm coming around to 4 a bit more. I think just because of the comedic elements, I think are great. So
right,
yeah, that's my ranking. What is yours though? And
Not all due to my Mr. Smith Goes to Washington defense of Toy Story 4 that I went scrounged this up to like 3 hours long. I'll do the short version. I love, the first 2 movies. They're very important to my childhood. 3, I still like, but has a lot of problems. And then 4 is, I think, a very funny movie, but also a very emotionally mature movie that I think deservedly would wrap this up in a way that I didn't anticipate when I heard Toy Story 4 was going to be announced. I don't want 5. I would like the series. If you're going to continue, I would still say I wouldn't mind more shorts.
Sure.
Like we had before, that'd be fine.
Mm-hmm.
If you can somehow get Tom Hanks and Tim Allen. Or I'll get Jim back. Jim needs more work.
Yeah.
Besides Lamp Life. Do it. You did a pretty good job. But otherwise, yeah, and my ranking is very firmly 3 at the worst bottom. Toy Story 4 at number 3. Toy Story 1 at number 2. And Toy Story 2 at number 1. Hopefully I didn't fuck up the numbers with that. I think that worked out.
I think
But,
we're good.
yes.
What I guess I'll just say about my like quick ranking is that like 3 and 4 are kind of interchangeable. I think as I kind of maybe go back to 4 over like, over the years, maybe my opinions will change on that. But yeah.
Yeah. So, if you somehow listened to all of this, thank you for being a patron. Really appreciate it. Hope you know what, this is a bang for your buck.
Yeah,
That we went this fucking long about Toy Story. I hope you enjoyed it, and we really appreciate your support. You help keep the lights on, cineists out there. Really appreciate it. And we should tease. So next month, at the time, when this is coming out, we would have just probably started our spooky season. You would have just heard Black Sabbath on the main feed. So we're going to do spooky stuff on the Patreon side as well, of course. And our plan is, along with, we got some audio reviews coming on for, The Creator, Exorcist Believer, probably the Killers of the Flower Moon. No, maybe something else. We haven't discussed further. We'll unveil that to you as we go along. But we have 2 big bonus episodes we're also going to do. So the first one, it's going to come out pretty early in the month, at least by the halfway point, a bit earlier, because we're doing another full franchise. And we're going to be doing it on, because October 13th this year falls on a Friday, we're covering the entire Friday the 13th saga. So all 12 of the theatrically released films, which I've seen plenty of times. And Bryan, if you follow his letterbox, has been steadily going through them. You just finished 5, I saw.
I did.
As of this recording.
A new beginning.
Yeah.
Yep.
A new beginning.
Very interesting, is what I'll say, as a tease.
Yes. Yes, for sure. And I think we'll have a very interesting discussion on that. And keep in mind, for full franchise, we kind of set off, Mike, when we were starting this, when we pitched this as a thing to each other. I think I pitched it to you, actually. I think it's how, like most things, I just pitch something to Bryan. He's like, sure,
yep,
we'll do that. Basically, like a sport, like the trooper that he is. We're going to be covering those 12 movies, but I'm going to make a stance here that we have a system that we're going to put in place.
I like this. I'm a fan of this.
Right. We'll reveal it. Do you want to reveal it now, or do you want to wait for the episode?
I think we wait for the episode, because I think that's...
We wait for the episode,
just on,
yes. Okay,
on
so
there, that'd be fun.
When you listen, there's going to be a system in place to where, if we do it correctly, we'll at least be a bit shorter than this final edit of the Toy Story will probably be, just by sheer... Because with full franchise, in the future, like, unless it's a special occasion like Friday the 13th, we're sticking to stuff that's like 5 movies maximum.
Yeah.
We're not going to, like, do that every single time, only on, like, a special occasion like October 13th. Don't expect, I don't know, us to cover... What's a stupidly long-running franchise? Fast and Furious, probably not.
Say, yeah.
Yeah,
Hellraiser, right? There's like 50 of those.
No, we're not going to do that. Just, we're going to stick to roughly around 5 movies unless something breaks the rules we want to do it for. So don't go pitching us on, like, I don't know, what are those weird French movies? The Axel or Asterisk. The Asterisk, the one that's like based on the French comic that's like they've made 50 movies about like Viking characters or whatever. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Gerard Depardieu, I believe, was one of them at one point. We're not doing that either. So yeah, we'll be doing Friday the 13th, but then also we have a little special bonus that's related to a local event where Bryan and I are, where we're going to go to a local drive-in that's going to have a movie marathon of the Universal Horror series. So it's going to be, the lineup is Frankenstein, 1931, Dracula, 1931, Bride of Frankenstein, The Wolfman from 1941, and then Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman from 1944, all of which I've seen, and Bryan also has not seen
I've
any of
seen
these.
none of the Universal monster movies, but I am very excited to see them, and I'm also very excited to go to my first drive-in theater because I've never been to
Yeah,
one.
he's never done that before.
Yeah.
I'm gonna, pick him up in my car, and we're gonna have some fun. And the plan is to have, using the recorder I did for some of the Dragon Con horror things, which you'll also be seeing, I think, throughout October. Some of the other panels I did, kind of like the 2023 one I put on the main feed. We're gonna have that little mic, and we're gonna be able to record in the car, and have a bit of fun, a little spooky fun.
Yes, should be fun.
Yes. But now it's finally over, and just bring out the fucking lamp that steps on the Pixar eye. We need to end this. This has gone too long. Bring out Luxo Jr.
Luxo Jr. Great.